it's going to have to... There we are. And we're live. I've arrived for our regularly scheduled Tuesday broadcast. Hello.
If there's anything on Sirenscape, I can't hear it. Oh wait, it's coming in. Over my speakers, no wonder.
In that case,
I told you I was in a rush.
Can everyone else check that they are getting sound from Sirenscape? And
got the little tune.
So much of a hurry, I didn't even check to see where the sound was going through.
Whoop. Ah, that Edwards. Yes, indeed. Thank you, Webby. Oh, I couldn't... Actually, now would be a good time. Let's throw ourselves into this. Ah, that Mr. Edwards always failing with the consoles.
Yes, I failed so much. That's all. I don't have anything to go with that. Solid. I'm just leave it. Gotta let my brain catch up.
Last incident. 7.
Boom, Claude. He's better than you. Oh God, Gareth.
Claude is better than you. There is no two ways about it.
Claude is the MVP of this crew.
Is there any way to just sync my acclaims into the ship or anything? Because I don't really have anything to think of on the fly to use it.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to use it. You don't have to use the acclaim system if you don't want to. You can
try and brown nose Captain du Casse.
Well, I think the ship does need some of its systems, maybe a little bit of a boosting here and there, because some of its stats are a little bit low.
That's what milestones are for, actually.
For
changing the statistics, the numerical bits of the ship. If you want to use a claim on the ship, that's usually to give the ship a new trait.
Racing stripes.
Well.
The red Navises go faster.
I'd like to point out that go faster bullet holes do not work.
No,
even less when there's nothing to actually.
It's red paint. Red makes it go faster. You know.
That said, Starfleet is about the science, so I feel we should test the bullet hole thing to make absolutely sure that's right. Bring on the Klingons! Specifically the ones from last week. Wait.
Yeah,
we already built them full of face holes, didn't we?
Let's bring on General O.
Yeah.
General O, never mind. Hello, Suitable Substrate. Thanks for tuning in. Yes, it's been a bit of a chaotic week as far as my streaming has gone on. I have attempted to stream at least one other time previous, which folks who get the notifications have probably been a bit confused about. I was attempting to try and stream some of my other games in solidarity with Paizo and their open RPG content.
Do it again this Sunday.
So
let's call it what it is: the Orc.
It is an Orc. It is their Orc. Yes, the Paizo Orc. But yes, I had problems with dropping frame rates on those particular streams, so I will endeavour to try again. But that's for later. Tonight is Star Trek: The Continuing Misadventures of the USS Navis. So, before we leap into tonight's episode, we do have one or two things to start our new episode with, which, as usual, is science. We've got science to do. So, let's see. What was the last lot of science? There was...
We're still on biology, headed by Bertram, as he's now lending aid to the techno people.
Yes, so there's trying to finally finish off the handheld sonic stun gun. We don't have Davis with us just yet, so our chief engineer won't be able to actively contribute, but someone can at least take control of his character and get him to help out using whatever we want for that. I do believe that a certain a certain operations officer is also trying to build a certain something, so there will be that.
Not angry.
And someone else
give it a
has
body.
applied. to actually do some science. Team Cybernetics. Last I
I'd like
was
to
told.
point out that Team Cybernetic is openly taking control of the science lab, so job on with any other research projects.
There are lots of labs.
Alex, who are you going to complain to? Oh, let's complain to the XO. Oh, wait.
You know, Commander, this could be seen as a potentially disturbing issue that's causing you to hijack resources that could be better serving the ship elsewhere. I feel you and I
I'd
need
like
to
to
have a
put-
medical conversation.
I'd like to point out, Doctor, is that I'm stopping the Changeling from creating a weapon that could potentially kill us all.
Yes, kill when it's designed to be non-lethal.
Precisely, it's you, Changeling.
Let's face it.
So anyway, it's going to be lethal as if I try and beat someone to death with it, and then it's going to be broken after
Let's
the
face
first
it.
one.
What would
He's already
be,
got ones. Get him.
Yeah,
what would be
you know,
what would be the least expected weapon to wipe out Starfleet? A non-lethal weapon.
Yeah,
Think
precisely.
about it. Because clearly you'd be putting more thought into it than Andrews did.
Oh dear.
Anyway, I've worked out a very careful rota for who gets to use the lab.
Yay, science indeed. Yes. So let's actually get some science going, shall we? Since folks are actually curious. So just for my and everyone else's, what's the proper word? Not exactly
Amusement.
peace of mind, but I was leaning in that direction. But then I thought it was a bit of an over-exaggeration. But okay. Andrews and Fazanan had an idea for something they wanted to try, or was it this all going to be Andrews?
Fazanan was involved. Said he was happy to contribute.
Okay,
So-
so what's the overall idea for this pet project of yours?
So that is to have it so that the shield system on the Navis is in tuned to our cybernetics. So effectively is that the reaction time is a thought, which is a 20th of a second, rather than hand movement to raise shields. Because we've been caught out several times now.
Okay. So it's specifically shields. So
Yes, yeah, it's
Okay,
not weapons.
right.
It's literally to get the shields active as quickly as possible.
It'll be amazing when you have a dream where you're on the bridge and you're in a fight.
So Delta Shift there, just poddling along. Sir, the shields just went up. Oh, I bet it's Fazanan having a nightmare again. Again,
the
which
third
suggests
one this
that,
week.
that Fazanan has nightmares often.
Yeah, I'd like to point out that the one of us that's
Probably
got
Andrew,
PTSD
actually.
survival should be it should be me having the nightmares, but no, Fazanan hasn't.
I'm
To be
terribly
honest,
sorry,
that's-
Anne. I cast aspersions there.
That's
It's,
more,
it's
that's more of
canon.
an
It has been written.
that is more of an argument for. Actually, if you think about it logically, what we just said, for Fazanan to definitely have this one, because by your own logic, he'll have less nightmares than Andrews, so they're less likely to come on.
Does PTSD increase or decrease your response time? Interesting.
Yeah.
There's only one way to find out.
Double blind testing. So double blind testing.
We could always have sort of some kind of proximity thing in, so it only triggers if you're on the bridge.
Yes,
Okay.
that would be the wise thing to do.
All right. Let's note that down then. Safety feature. Proximity.
Or it has to be simultaneous sport.
That's
That's very
Having two
tricky
people-
without actually connecting yourselves.
No,
nearly.
no, not connecting each other. It's just the fact that it has to receive. The computer
Yeah,
has to
two
receive.
systems.
Yeah, it has to receive two signals to activate. So it's basically is that Andrews and Fazanan both have to be thinking this situation's getting out of hand. Raise shields.
What happens if one of you gets knocked out?
Then it doesn't work.
What happens if one of you's on an away mission?
Doesn't
Exactly.
work. Yeah, it's literally designed to be a. It's a fail. It's an emergency system. It shouldn't be used all the time.
We could always put brain drips into everybody.
Yeah, let's all become one. Let's all become a single collective that works under one consciousness.
Oh,
I see no problems with this.
Well, I wasn't going to say nothing, but
We are the Federation. You will be assimilated.
I'm taking that as permission.
that sounds almost like Nova's like, I'll do it.
Yeah,
I'll program you
Nova
in
should
cybernetics.
Nova should hopefully be picking up the massive amounts of sarcasm coming off of Andrews during that entire conversation.
Yeah, but by now she's probably so used to it that she just kind of plays it off. Yeah, it's just usual. It's background noise now. Speaking of, let's get on with science. Let's do some actual science. Might hang on until Davis gets here for the finale, if we get there, of the handheld sonic stun gun. I don't know at this
that means that they're going down the right research route now. Oh, you ruined that surprise.
We were trying to do it by ourselves without having to drag in the doctor.
Haven't they done every single pathway they lined up?
Really?
This is the very last one.
We've done acoustics, computers, and this is biology. It's the third out of the 5.
Yeah. But the remaining 2 are a bit
Iffy anyway.
tenuous. Yeah. Xenolinguistics and communications. Which is the scientific way of going, maybe not. We'll see. But yes, thanks to the previous work you've done so far, this seems to be coming together better. But first things first, let's get onto that pesky little Nova creature who has secured her own teeny tiny little closet away from the prying eyes of everybody else. And so, since this is the first endeavour, would you like to name me 3 to 5 avenues of investigation that you're going to try out? So, using focuses as an example, or as an avenue. That's avenue twice in the same space of time. You know what I mean? You know, as inspiration. That was what I was trying to think of. Focuses as inspiration for different avenues. But you're building a chassis, so this is going to be, I imagine, a fairly limited set of.
Yeah. I suppose tinkering and technology experimentation, because she's trying to add other things into it, would be one of them. The generally inner workings, robotics.
You kind of want Vibers for this, if you can talk him into it. Because Vibers got computers.
And it's going to put the AI in a body and let it roam around.
Well, yeah, that's kind of a thing.
Yeah, the shell that's.
This is, of course.
I'm hoping that Vibers, as the chief engineer, says, I'm very thankful, but no, because this is dangerous. But knowing Vibers will be like, yeah, let's bring in Latude as well. Let's just teleport everyone out into space, and no one knows when he does it.
I can guarantee.
You can get teleportation, but no, you mentioned.
Well, I can guarantee pretty much what Davis would probably say. It's fine.
I want to be in a pie.
That creepy.
It's fine. I need to get him that printed on a t-shirt.
Trust me, I'm an engineer.
Yeah, Andrew's having the mild aneurysm. Sort of like Vibers is just like, it's fine.
So yeah, tech experimentation, inner workings, robotics sound pretty reasonable, unless you can think of another 2.
I think they're the ones that are jumping out at me, really.
Alright, so which one would you like to try first? Which avenue?
I think tinkering and technology experimentation. See if I can put in the pieces that I want to put into it.
So, basically, since you're tinkering, you're basically going daring here. You're just cobbling together bits.
Yeah.
I assume. So that sounds to me like daring and engineering, so give it a good old go. And we'll see how many successes you accrue. Anything you want to add to it, you can add to it.
Yeah, determination.
Okay. try anything once, or how does this work? Cochrane Medal of Excellence. Select a single focus that you possess that relates. Yep. Once per mission. On a task, you receive 2 benefits of spending determination instead of 1. So, yeah, you get, rather than 2 successes, you get 3 or 4. So that's not bad at all. So you're going to blitz through this. So, wow, 4.
6.
That's a massive 6. Okay, so tinkering and experimentation. You blitz together bits. So Nova, in Nova's secrecy to try and get this done, giggling to herself as she does it. She basically grabs a load of stuff that looks interesting, stuff that Nova thinks would probably look cool if it got attached to Hello to make up Hello's chassis. And it's a case of, ooh, that could be nice, and ooh, that could be nice too, and maybe if I've had a bit of this. And, what's that? I don't know what that is, but it looks funny, I'll take that as well. Excuse me. And, starts smushing them all together. But because this is, tinkering and experimentation, smashing things together and seeing how they work yields mixed results. So the first time you plug Hello into it, Hello lights up and searches for its universal interface. I'm humanizing it already before I realised I was doing it.
Did you also assume its gender as well?
Quite. Hello will have
It's not-
the capability
it's
of choosing its own gender. So.
It's also not it's they, if you're going for it's sentient, you know.
Well, that's yet to be determined, I suppose. But, yes. Okay, so smushing a load of bits together, and some of them do look cool initially, until Nova realizes that just whacking things together willy-nilly, some things don't quite interact with each other the way that they might perhaps otherwise have done if there was some forethought put into how the EPS channel tube latched onto an anti-grav generator might work, and so bits kind of start falling off of Hello.
It's probably turning into a space orc. Just hammer it together and believe.
So, yes, there might need to be a bit more of a thought-out logical approach put into this, rather than just whacking things together and seeing if they work. Some things certainly showed promise, like the tiny little anti-grav propeller on the bottom of it to allow Hello to move about, but otherwise just slapping pieces together because they looked interesting didn't quite work out how Nova intended. So the tinkering and experimentation route yielded at least a couple of interesting results as far as getting disparate systems to work together, but might need to pursue something a little bit more focused in order to get this right. So you blew through that entire session of R&D in quite a short space of time. So so over the period of time between the end of the last episode and the beginning of this one, Nova has probably just been pilfering bits and pieces every now and again when she tries to surreptitiously pass the tech labs. Pretending to be interested in what other people are doing just to lift some stuff, but eventually all that stuff has to find its way back because not all of it worked by slapping it together. But some of it does show promise. Okie dokie. So that's one avenue of experimentation tried, but not successful in building a finished result, I'm afraid. Okay, so next up we have the Team Cybernetics. So, like we just did with Sean, would you guys like to suggest to me 3 to 5 avenues of experimentation? I mean, one obviously suggests itself. Cybernetics, in case you were wondering.
You're talking to me then? Sorry.
Well, I'm talking to either of you. Jan, Webby, there's, if you can name 3 to 5 avenues of investigation to try and see if you can get this to work, and yeah, we'll go from there.
Security protocols.
Yeah, cybernetic
Yeah.
security protocols, and what do we have? It's isolinear chips, isn't it? So I would be thinking on the lines of isolinear processing.
What about helm operations? Because that is at least a...
It's because shields are a tactical operation,
Yeah, true.
not helm.
Okay,
Yeah, tactical
cybernetic security
operations.
protocols, isolinear operations. Okay. Anything else?
So effectively, it's an input signal to the isolinear chip.
Yeah.
Computers would probably be one.
Yan, can you think of any others?
Just looking through the focuses. I think
that's-
sensor operations.
It's a pretty good list.
Biometrics could potentially be another. Because then you pick up-
Biotechnology.
Yeah, biotech.
Where is the list of foci?
There isn't a set list of focuses. Because obviously when you try these, excuse me, avenues of investigation, you obviously want to try and use the focuses your character has got, so that you've got an advantage on the rolls to try and see if you're successful. So using those focuses as a launch pad of a sort to create your avenues of investigation makes a good deal of sense. You keep to your own specialities or specializations, or the things that you're focused on, good at. So
Shipboard tactical systems. The Vibers has got that.
okay, so we're currently at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 potential avenues of investigation. So that's quite a lot. So do you want to shave one off? We've currently got cybernetics, security protocols, isolinear operations, computers, biotechnology, shipboard tactical systems.
Who do we know that's got cybernetics as a focus available?
No one.
Looking through the NPCs and going...
I think cybernetics is probably going to be the main one.
We could probably drop biotechnology if we've got cybernetics.
Yeah.
That does kind of suggest a similar thing, yes. I can agree with that, certainly.
Could we retrain Nurse Bravo in having cybernetics available so that there would be an expert on hand?
Well, let me see. Hold on a second. Rules. What did we say about momentum? And not momentum. Milestones. I know what I'm doing, honestly. And if you believe that, I have a bridge to sell you. Let me see. Select a supporting character. Choose one of the above options. Replace one talent with another. Or choose two attributes and reduce one. Or what was choose one of the character's foci and replace it with another. Select a supporting character that was used. Okay, it's a bit of an iffy one, but because so many of you have got so many minor milestone, which bridge do I have for sale? Let me quickly think of one. I have one on Bolia that I might you might be interested in. It's a very appealing bridge, because Bolians try to please everybody. So it's a very pleasing bridge, and I own it. So yeah, I'm taking applications. The bidding starts at 2 bars of gold press Latin.
So it's not a ship's bridge.
This is a tangent that's getting way out of hand. Okay, let me reel this back in.
It's going to be a very long night.
If you want to bring Nurse Bravo in on this, and you want to change one of Nurse Bravo's focuses. If one of you wants, you can spend one of your minor milestones in order to redo one of Nurse Bravo's focuses. Yeah, so... if
Yeah,
you
I'll
want
do
to
that.
You're going to do it, are you?
I've got 12 miners, so it's all
Yes,
good.
indeed. Got them. So let me just make a note of that. Spending another minor. Alrighty. So that is the nice thing about the milestones, is that you can have favourites, or you can help your supporting characters along, especially if they turn up a lot. So, which of Nurse Bravo's focuses would we like to reattribute? Xenobiology, medical diagnostics, or virology?
Where's she gone? Where's he gone? Sorry. Jesus. Do apologise for misgendering
row middle.
Bravo. Ah, there. Yeah, sorry, I selected on Andrew.
Top left, or supporting characters under the...
I think
actors.
xenobiology might be the best one to re-roll out, because we do have
Not
medical
Bertram.
diagnostics. It kind of covers under it, and virology is sort of like obviously the study of viruses. So
Also, Bertram is also a xenobiologist, so you don't need two of them.
So you want to replace xenobiology with cybernetics? Okay.
yeah,
So this suggests to me that the regular checkups that Andrews and Thazanan have to go through in order to ensure that their cybernetics are still working and are kept in working order. Obviously, it's such a routine thing that the chief medical officer can't always be on hand to oversee it. So, as the chief medical officer, Dr. Bertram's workload has been increasing of late, what with all the various scientific endeavors he's doing and all the awards he's winning, and maybe he's getting interviewed a lot for various Federation magazines and stuff,
He's actually doing his prep for when the Sonic Fin's finished. He's got some ideas for a major ongoing fin that he wants to work on.
so. Oh, interesting. Either way,
I'll discuss that with you at some point.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. Nurse Bravo has probably been the one to start taking over the checkups of the cybernetics. As such, Nurse Bravo felt that it was time to brush up on cybernetics. Whereas, as you quite rightly note, Dr. Bertram is a specialized xenobiologist, so Nurse Bravo appears to be adding to his/their knowledge pool by taking up cybernetics. So that makes a good bit of sense to me. I like that. So, does that mean you're wanting to bring Nurse Bravo in on this endeavor? It makes sense.
seems like it. Yeah.
It makes sense, because, someone familiar with your implants and whatnot, so that's cool. Bring Nurse Bravo in here. So, which avenue... Hang on a second, I've got to have a look at these and prompt my brain for what I think is the proper avenue. Okay. Alright. The computer is blinging at me. The computer agrees as well. Alright, so choose an avenue to investigate. Do you want cybernetics? Do you want to start with cybernetics, or do you want to start with security protocols, isolinear operations, computers, or shipboard tactical systems? Any of which is a pretty interesting avenue, actually.
I'm happy to go down the cybernetics route first.
Jan,
That
what do you
seems to be the
think?
most likely one.
Yeah, I think let's do that one.
Alrighty. Alright then, so, one can be the primary, which is more than likely going to be Nurse Bravo, but one thing Excuse me a second, I'm just going to clear my throat. Sorry about that. So it's more than likely Nurse Bravo's going to be the primary, what with being the one with cybernetics as the focus. But obviously, as a medical practitioner and not one of the command crew, Nurse Bravo doesn't have the knowledge of the security protocols and the computer interface protocols that are required to finish the job. So it would make sense that Andrews and Thazanan's assistance on this matter wouldn't be in the medicine field. It would be more along the security field. So,
why have I not used the veteran perk more regularly? Whenever a
Only you
character
can answer
spends a
that.
point of determination, roll 1 challenge dice. If an effect is rolled, immediately regain that spent point of determination.
Oh, it's
Well,
a bit like my one.
yes, it's basically veteran and untapped potential are, two sides of a similar coin.
Well, I'm going to
Two
burn.
ends.
I'm going to burn a point of determination for survival at any costs, because I think that raising the shields instantaneously is
Okay.
promoting its survival of the entire crew,
Okay, I
or
can
preservation
go
of life.
with that. I can go
Bold
with
move.
that. That's nicely justified. Sorry, Jan, what was that?
I said it's a bold move. We don't even know if it's the right avenue.
Nah, it's fine.
He's starting to quote Davis now. It's fine.
Yeah, it is. It's fine. So Bravo is the primary.
Yep, so Bravo is more than likely going to be doing a reason plus medicine. Yeah, seems about right. So, I don't know, Gareth, since you're the one who's not going to be doing science, or John, either one of you want to be Nurse Bravo?
Gareth is doing science. He's going to be helping with the stun gun.
Oh, of course he is, so that makes sense
if you're
that John...
if you're in the stun gun project, then I'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Of course, I forgot.
Yeah.
I forgot. So, yes.
Everyone and his dog's in the stun gun project.
But to be fair,
Cool kids.
they only brought me in when they realised they couldn't do it themselves. The poor things.
Well,
It's
find
doing
out
the
there's
fleshy
a thing
bits. What do you
called
expect?
biology.
It's got an ology. It's not real science.
Exactly.
So
Well,
it says the person who's primary so far contribution to science is to punch it with a cybernetic fist.
So this is reason medicine, yes?
Reason medicine for Nurse Bravo with focus of cybernetics. But before we roll on that, Thazanan and Andrews are going to be assisting. Let me see. This is going to be knowledge of security protocols, so I'm willing for you guys to go control security for your single dice assists on this. And I
Ready,
do
roll
believe...
I just
Sorry,
roll a
what?
challenge dice, by the way.
that's just roll a d6. So just slash our d6. So that's Andrews, having spent a point of determination, and we'll get to that. 4 is... No, that's not an effect, so you have spent that.
Yeah, no problem.
That's an extra 1 from Thazanan. So that's 4 successes so far. That's pretty awesome. So now, John, if you can do Nurse Bravo, we'll see how this turns out. 1 success, 5. So yeah, a lot of progress made. So obviously, Nurse Bravo very familiar with the inner workings of the cybernetics, but modifying them in any way is a new thing. It's kind of like Nurse Thazanan. That's a threat point. Go.
Hey!
Now I'm mixing up the supporting characters' names.
Poor Caval.
Oh, I've made you change departments now. Sorry, Ian.
He pilots the biological probe very well through the vascular system.
Yes, he does. Maybe a little too well. Gets carried away sometimes. Oh, look, here's another artery turning. Whee! Anyway, sorry, no, tangent. Come back from the tangent mode. Woo. Right. Yes. Okay. So the fact that Nurse Bravo hasn't long, I got it right that time, hasn't long started dipping his toes into the cybernetics area is kind of a, now I get to actually try tinkering with it. This is going to be interesting. So it's kind of diving in at the deep end for Nurse Bravo, but all the same, one success, no complications, which means that, Bravo doesn't accidentally mess up something. But since this is mostly just investigation at this point in time, this is mostly probably done on using computer simulations and stuff. So it's not actually yet monkeying with Andrews or Thazanan's inner workings. But with that many successes, Andrews and Thazanan both managed to contribute quite a bit to the capabilities of just a short burst, single command communication to the ship's computer. The code looks good. It all comes down to now whether the thought to implant to transmission delay can be shortened to the point that it's the kind of optimal delay that you would like to reach for. So far, so very good. This is looking very promising. In fact, Nurse Bravo is kind of keen to keep on pressing forward. You haven't reached anything that you can call a definite end of this particular investigation road yet, because, like I said, the delay between thought and action still needs to be worked on, because now you're essentially trying to wire in a small communication. It's not a transceiver; it's a transmitter. There we are. Into your implants, which for someone like Andrews, who's got a lot of implants, it's a bit less of an issue. But for Thazanan, who has got a bit more of a simplistic, not cybernetic replacement eye.
You're so harsh to Fazanan, Simon.
Well, think about it. The sheer amount of replacement cybernetic organs in Andrews' body means that they need to be able to communicate with her brain, which in and of itself has got some bits which are cybernetic replacements. So there's already a lot of signal transmission going on within her body, whereas mine's only 8-bit. Well, quite. Whereas Thazanan's is it's an image relay into his nervous system, so it's there's less of a complex communication going on in Thazanan's eyepiece than there is the plethora of cybernetic replacements in Andrews. So yeah, that's my justification for that, and I'm sticking to it, darn it. So, science. That was a lot of science, but we've got one last bit of science to do. The one bit of science that seems to have taken the longest. Can they get it done today? The handheld sonic stun gun.
Down, hopefully.
Here come the complications.
Yes, wouldn't that be interesting? Okay.
Oh dear, Andrews is in the firing line. What a pity.
Well, if you happen to be in the same science lab at the same time, accidents will happen. So then, Alex, Davis, and Gareth.
Yes. Gareth leading.
So
Is
you've
this
tried
using the medicine?
Yes, you've tried acoustics, didn't work. You tried computers, didn't quite work, but both of them together paved the way for what you're trying now, which is using biology. So,
Yeah,
is this
apparently
gonna be
you have
it?
to know. You have to know how the things fit, how the people part works before you try
is
to
it-
throw software at
Is
it.
it insight and science?
Or insight and engineering. So it depends on which one you feel most strongly with. I'm happy for you to go with either. Nothing?
One off.
Okay, so it's still very much Burnham that's leading the successes on this. Let's see if Vibers can
Burnham?
contribute. Only one dice, remember, Davis, unless you're burning a determination.
You said Burnham.
Yeah, I said Burnham, I did. That's another threat gone. I am
You
on
can't
fire
mention
tonight!
All the threats.
Sorry, I said that's
Too
quite
many things go
insulting
wrong.
to Bertram.
Well, we're already only 40 minutes in. I've already cost myself 2 threat. By the end of the night, I might have none
Potentially,
left.
you can
and-
use the computer as well if you want the last dice with Vibers, as he has been doing.
No, let's go with that. 2 successes
I
and 1
used
success.
the computer, didn't I?
Yeah.
That means I get a reroll
Okay.
on
Well,
one of the
you've,
dice.
you've got a
in
1
the thing.
success. You sure you want to
Actually, I've got
reroll that
one
success?
success on 1 dice. Yeah, there's no point.
I was going to say. You want to live dangerously?
Long day.
Please tell me we're through. If you say
You're
we're one
through.
off, I'm gonna rage quit.
You're through. You're through. You got through
We
it.
should have
You've
involved the
created
doctor
it.
from the
You
beginning.
now have the working prototype, and you've got it. You've created the handheld sonic stun gun. So, what that means is, I'm going to have to try and figure out how this thing works. Now,
Thank you, Bertram.
yeah. Dr. Bertram just dusts off his hands and goes, "Well, my work here is done."
If anyone needs me, I'll be
Who
in
knew
sick
the
bay.
nervous?
Being awesome.
Who knew the nervous system was important?
Yes. As it turns out, yes, just creating a sonic cannon isn't quite enough, and just having a database of other species' biological processes and tagging it to a sonic emitter isn't quite enough. However, using all of your expertise and all the avenues put together, you finally have a working prototype handheld sonic stun gun. So, you wanted it to be potent enough that it could knock out a field of Ferengi, basically. So what I'm going
Well,
to do...
it's just people. It's just a group of individuals.
Yeah, but the
Based on
idea
some-
was
was
originally...
from the Ferengi. Yeah.
Yeah, it came from trying to take out Ferengi because of their sensitivity to sound, and that gave you the idea. So what we're looking for here is a device. Let me grab something like a... It's not going to be as large as a Type 3 phaser, so let's go to a Type 2 for that kind of potency. I'm going to make it two-handed for the time being because miniaturizing it takes place over time as you get better and better at it. So let's make handheld sonic stun gun. Now, you probably need to use... Where is it? Intense, accurate, debilitating. I'm going to give it the debilitating quality. It's also non-lethal. We're going to tag it for that. It doesn't necessarily need knockdown. So that will probably do. There's no weapon... Oh no, there it is. Area. So it's designed to take out guys at an area. So area, debilitating, non-lethal, at the same kind of intensity as Type 2 phaser. So there we are. I'm going to need to find a different image for it, but that can wait till later. There you go. You got your working prototype, lads. Well done. Finally.
I am also 3/4 to the name. I've got I've got an acronym of sound: sonic something universal neural disruptor. I can't think of the O.
Yeah, that's going to need some thought.
I was thinking oscillation, but
oscillating.
but that's more. I googled that and it didn't seem quite right. Movement back and forth in regular rhythm or regular
Yeah, well,
variations
that's
in
what a
magnitudes or
speaker does.
positions.
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
That's what a sound wave does.
Oh, sorry, I was right
It's an
then.
oscillating
Sorry,
sound wave, so yeah.
it was just I never actually bothered to look up exactly. I knew this was one of those words. I roughly knew what it meant, but I didn't know exactly. So I thought I'll Google it because I don't want to seem silly and say it. But I was actually right.
Yeah,
by the sounds of it. But yeah, sounds. Sonic oscillation.
Oscillation or oscillating?
Oscillating.
Sorry, oscillating universal neural disruptor.
Disruptor. I like it.
I literally
Sonic
just started coming off on the fly. It was just the O I was just thinking. But yeah, sound.
Or as the Starfleet intelligence call it, the anti-humanoid weapon designed by the changelings.
Sorry, what?
Yes.
You're serious? Is this why the jokes have changed the whole time? I didn't know that.
What? That we thought you were a changeling?
No. That this weapon was something they built. I did not know that.
No. They didn't.
No, he's pulling
Oh,
it away.
okay.
He's insinuating that because you're changelings, you've now
Oh, right.
made this, and that Starfleet intelligence now have a file on you.
Okay.
No, that's cool. There we are. We've made a lot of progress on science today. My God. So the
Just
sonic
need to know
stun
where
gun
I'm gonna-
has been built.
My proposal for the name.
The Hello has not got a new chassis yet, and the cybernetic Swift
Fuck you!
activation system.
Cybernetic anti-energy linguistic integrated nap time gun.
I hate you.
It's Mr. Edwards's changeling gun.
Oh, come on, I could not come up with something like that after what you guys after that conversation.
Thank you. Now everyone's going to be thinking of that, not mine. You've just scuppered me. Thank you.
It already was the changeling gun, so.
Anyway, you've also got to decide where Ensign Edwards is going to be posted this time.
Well, this kind of does bring up an interesting point, because as we now know, timeline-wise, we are now into the early portion of the Federation Klingon War of 2373. Are we in 2373 yet? Yeah, we've just now crossed over into 2373. So yes, this current episode, when we start it, will be a month after the previous one, which is when we were...
It's late 2372 to mid 2373.
Yeah, so you're in the early days of 2373, so Happy New Year! But yes, unfortunately that's been marred by the fact that the Federation is now in conflict with the Klingon Empire. So, yes, as you can imagine, a combat-capable ship the caliber of the Navis has more than likely been attending to various combat situations as has been required. The fact that an Akira class is also quite nippy when it needs to be means that Starfleet has probably been trying to keep the Navis more or less on the galactic east of the Federation's own borders, to try and be ready to answer any threat the Klingons might try and throw your way. So all of this scientific endeavor has been going on in between missions, mostly combat missions against the Klingons. A month has passed since we were attacked by Vroth. Or wrong, given his failure. Well, yes.
Only because he's not alive to defend himself.
Yeah, you don't know how much of a knock-on effect taking on and defeating 4 Klingon ships led by a Klingon general has had. But yeah, so far so good. Every time the Navis has been brought in to deal with the Klingons in some fashion. In some cases, in one case at the very least, when the Navis turned up, it was very much a case of, oh, lads, better scarper! And the Klingons, usually when they were only attacking with just birds of prey as opportunity strikes against lone targets or vulnerable targets, as soon as the Navis turns up, you know, a combat-capable ship of that size and caliber made the Klingons think twice, and so you were able to make the Klingons retreat on a number of occasions, which is cool. That's a good point, because the Navis is an Akira class with massive shuttle bays. It's a combat carrier, yeah. So, what we're going to do is the extensive shuttle bays allows you to carry up to 2 Scale 2 small craft. Those 2 Scale 2 craft are the runabouts. However, a Federation attack fighter is also Scale 2. So, I suppose this can come down to your own
what a pity
preference.
What a pity the Californian fell out the back end of the ship. Oh dear, let's put a new one in.
So yeah, this comes down to...
We scuttled the Californian for parts anyway, and a new warp core, so, you know, there's not much left of it.
Yeah, so the runabouts being larger vessels have to be parked in a certain section of your extensive shuttle bay because of their sheer size. So it can't just be a matter of moving some regular shuttles out and then plonking a pair of attack fighters in, because the attack fighters are the same kind of size as a runabout, and shuttles are going to be nice to they're going to have their own little slots to just fix themselves into position. So it's probably more than likely going to be a case of replacing one or both runabouts with an attack fighter if you want to go that route. Makes a certain amount of sense considering the times that you're living in.
But
it's up to you.
I'd replace one, probably not both, just having 2 larger craft. Because the attack fighters don't have the as much room as the runabout, do they?
No. Let me.
What I would guess is that what we would probably do is replace one runabout with an attack fighter and outfit the general loadout of the other runabout to be more combat focused.
We'd still need something less armed for war, if you need to do drop downs for peaceful visits.
Yeah.
But in the situation we're in, we're more likely to have the guns on and take them off rather than have no guns on and put them on.
Yeah.
Good point. So, yes, I've got one of the attack fighters up. Looking pretty good. Phaser banks, micro-torpedoes, Scale 2, yeah, with improved reaction control systems and improved impulse drive. Now...
Can I suggest a name?
Of course.
Skanderbeg.
Ooh, interesting.
Well, is it the small country that could against the Ottomans? Makes sense for this.
But it's not a country. That's a person.
Oh no, but he was a representative of Albania at that time. But small was the thing is something small, punchy that can get around and potentially do the job.
Yeah, but for the naming convention, it would be what?
Well, I don't know. Have they established naming conventions in canon for attack fighters?
Generally, each ship tends to have its own based on the captain's preferences, and so far we've had
Californian and Carpathia. Somebody's altering the name of the Californian as we speak.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Wasn't Carpathia more of a region than an actual country?
No, because the two ships are named for the Carpathia is the vessel that rescued the Titanic survivors, and the Californian is the one that was closest but didn't have its wireless switched on.
Okay.
So it's
By that
Maybe.
convention, there isn't really much else we can go into it. So.
no,
There's
but it's a
plenty of
historical thing. It's an interest in naval history. So
Ah.
presumably she's going to name it after something else from famous naval.
Yes.
So not Vigo.
If we were going with countries starting with C, I almost want to call it Chad.
Yeah, so there were 3 ships which were nearby before it sunk. So the Samson was the 3rd ship.
Interesting. Oh, that sounds good for a warship as well. You know,
Chad,
Samson.
I have to say, as awesome as it sounds, it just puts to mind the idea of the Giga Chad.
Yeah.
Giga Chad!
But you can see, like, you know, Samson is a warrior as well as having the connotations from the same incident.
So what do we think? The Samson?
I'm fine with whatever.
I'm fine with that.
I named the other 2, so.
Yeah, well, I like things making sense.
Samson sounds like the one.
So Samson, in his own way, is another type of Chad. It's just an older type of Chad.
Oh,
More biblical one.
A Greek type of Chad, you know.
biblical chat.
All right, so there's the Samson for use whenever. There was something about that I couldn't quite get. What was it? It was trying to allocate it to the Navis in some fashion. So worker-bee. Oh, my small craft have all been edited out. Okay, that's fine. I don't need it. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Nearly posted that in the wrong Discord chat.
Whoops. Okay.
Oh god. But someone's already done that.
Moving on. Okay, so we've gone with the idea that 1 attack fighter, 1 runabout. This does mean, if I remember how an Akira works, from a tactical point of view. What was it? Where's my list of? They've changed the layout slightly of Foundry, added a few new things, moved a few other things around. Decks. We've got decks, but we also have the Flight Operations Center. That was it.
We had an officer in charge of that we named, and I can't remember who it was.
No, I don't remember who that was either. But
Oh, have I got to go searching through the list now?
Never mind, it wasn't them.
It was Lieutenant Commander Replicator was on the list, wasn't it?
I never put a Lieutenant Commander Replicator in the list because of obvious reasons. I've made a list of named characters thus far.
I can't remember what we did for the command structure. We did it somewhere.
That's it. It's
Technically, the only thing.
Guitar.
Technically, the only thing the flight operations officer has control over is coordinating shuttle and runabouts, and in this case also fighter craft. So that, you know, overall ship operations, you know, are still dictated by the captain. But if you're trying to do something where the Navis is doing one thing and being the center point of an operation, and you've got the other smaller craft all trying to coordinate, it's usually the flight operations officer who tries to see that kind of thing on, and we haven't really ever established who that person could be. But flight operations officer would be the fellow in charge of mustering attack craft in the event of being needed. So ordinarily that would kind of come under Thazanan's role as chief helm officer, but at the same time trying to have Thazanan coordinate the the attack patterns and who's landing, who's taking off, whilst he's also trying to steer the ship. It makes sense that an Akira class would try and separate both roles, but probably Thazanan and the flight operations officer are in communication. So there are ways and means, but that's me going off on another tangent for the moment. But if you ever do deploy the Samson, then it's likely that the flight operations officer will start coming into play. Assuming, of course, that Thazanan doesn't take the opportunity to start flying the Samson himself.
Well, definitely have to put it through its paces.
Yeah. I love it how Mr. Edwards like, I'll do it.
Yeah, but I've still got. That's still potentially on my postings. So that unless I've been given the chair back.
And we come right back around to what other point I was trying to make but lost somewhere in the morass. Yes! Is Edwards being posted to a new position, or because we're now on a combat footing, we're putting people into roles that are more familiar with them in order to not mess up, who's doing what in a pinch?
I would say that even though we're in a combat situation, is that the Federation value is that the education is important.
Okay.
And he should be going through the journey, so potentially tactical, it's not been on.
Mm-hmm.
I was on tactical last time, wasn't I?
No, you're on security.
You've been on security, and they put you through engineering as well.
And
you've also
medical.
been through medical, so tactical does appear to be one that you haven't done before.
Or command.
Operations, or
Yeah,
command,
operations.
or helm. So
I think if Caval dropped dead, his Andrew would take over with the con.
thankfully, he said if, not when.
It's only a matter of time.
But which one goes first? So, as a final little nod, where is Edwards being posted? Is he being stuck back to comms, or are you sticking him on maybe co-tactical?
I'd say put him on co-tactical.
Now, because he doesn't have special dispensation to do so, Edwards' tactical station is done at the interface is regular, not oversized. So, and it also means that Edwards has to stand up, as well as Claude. So,
Claude doesn't stand up. The ship stands down on him. That didn't work.
That almost made sense.
He's not standing up. He's pushing down on the ship to keep it on the straight course.
No, that's a press up. Pushes the ship down.
Yeah, I don't think there's a Chuck Norris-esque way that you can phrase this very well. Let's just say that Claude doesn't need chairs. For Claude is mighty.
Claude is Claude.
Claude is Claude. There you go. Okay. Okie dokie. So you're on tactical at the moment. Everyone else is at their usual spaces. Okay, so before we're an hour in and we haven't actually started the episode properly yet, but that's fine. That's fine. Anything else that anybody else wants to bring up that I might have forgotten to, or what? No, alrighty. Let's get this party started. To wit, I am going to move us to the transporter room. Okay, so we've got the senior bridge crew assembled here, but first I have to do the following. Captain's log, stardate 50044.5. It has been 1 month since the Klingons evicted every Federation citizen from Starbase 364. In that time, the Navis has been in near constant engagements with the Klingons from Melona and Arcanus sectors all the way to Kalandra and Eladrel and all the points in between. The crew have performed as expected of them, and then some. The Navis herself has also borne up well under the near-constant conflicts she has been called to engage in. But now we have received new orders and are rendezvousing at Starbase 395 in the Solaria system in order to bring on board the Admiral responsible for our next mission. Personally, this will not be a meeting I am looking forward to. So...
It's Daddy du Casse. Well, no, Uncle du Casse.
So, we're moving to the transporter room where the senior staff have assembled. And as the last of you, more than likely Nova, come in to line up in front of the transporter pad, Captain du Casse gives Lechude the nod, at which point the transporter flares to life and the bosun whistle and yes, a broad-shouldered man with dark skin, but patches of grey-white hair and a trimmed beard emerges on the transporter pad. The family likeness is, of course, unmistakable. And it has to be mentioned that there is a certain member of the senior staff, Commander Vibers, who definitely recognizes the Admiral who has just beamed on board. This would be your mentor, Admiral Horatio du Casse, your captain's uncle. Ah, he says. Finally, I have made it on board. My apologies for the delay in my arrival, but things being as they are, a little delay was inevitable. And he makes his way close to the captain. Ah, niece, it is good to see you again. At which point, Captain du Casse just nods and goes, Admiral. There's an awkward silence as the lot of you are just there, kind of standing, wondering.
If the Admiral, if the captain is being impartial, is that I would welcome him as my role as first officer.
He kind of snaps out of just this uncomfortable silent exchange between the two of them. The Admiral then draws his attention to Commander Andrews, who just drew his attention. Ah, yes, of course, Commander Andrews. I must say, your performance during the 15 months when your captain was absent was stellar, to say the least. You have a promising career in command ahead of you, Captain. Well, excuse me, not Captain yet, of course, but it seems to be a foregone conclusion at this point. Well, for now anyways.
Thank you for the compliment, Admiral.
Well, it was not my compliment, Commander. Your captain speaks highly of you, and he kind of seems to be trying to use this as another way to open up lines of communication with his niece, who just seems to... It's like she almost rolls her eyes, but manages to just about stop herself. I believe you are not yet familiar with the entirety of my command staff, so let me introduce them. Oh, there's no need, says the Admiral. I know all about the crew of the Navis. Second, Officer Natala. Very good. And of course, one hears nothing but good things about you, of course, Commander. Going from science officer to second officer and science officer on board of a combat-capable ship. Must be a little difficult to reconcile those two rather different viewpoints, I imagine.
It does take some work.
But work that you are no doubt more than up for, as the regular updates I get from the Admiralty indicate. And of course, I will be getting to you before long, Commander Vibers. Let me first introduce
Good
myself.
to see you, Horatio.
Yes. Let me first introduce myself to Commander Thazanan, and he actually grips hold of Caval's hand and shakes it quite vigorously while putting his free hand on Caval's shoulder. One hears an awful lot about you, Commander Thazanan. My niece thinks very highly of you.
Well, can't believe everything you hear.
Ha! So modest, so modest. Tell me, Commander, do you yourself dream about becoming a starship captain?
Then you don't get to fly.
Well, exactly. You see, I was just thinking that very same thing. It must be difficult to try and reconcile ambition to be a captain and then to take you away from your strongest attribute, your piloting skill. So to become a captain would be, of course, to keep such a fine officer in Starfleet, but also to deprive it of such a fantastically talented pilot. It is difficult.
Perhaps when my reflexes are not as good as they are now, I'll go into the slow lane.
Well, if you ever need a friend to help recommend you for captaincy of your own ship, I'm sure I could pull a few strings. At which point Captain du Casse herself just goes just coughs really loudly. Which seems to, of course, draw the Admiral's attention. Yeah, of course. And finally, we have Dr. Bertram. Wait, not finally. Somebody's missing. Ah, of course, Lieutenant Nova. Well, first, Dr. Bertram, of course, I have heard a lot about you. Your name is making the rounds.
Thank you very much, sir. It's a pleasure to meet you.
His Moss lectures are to die for, Admiral.
So I have been reliably informed. I'm afraid, however, my interests are a little more focused these days, what with the issue with the Klingons.
I can imagine it must take a lot of your time and focus, given the current situation, sir.
Well, my focus, as it turns out, is why I am here. But far be it for me to not give my greetings to the, well, I wouldn't quite say famous, but her name definitely gets around, Lieutenant Nova. Salutes. Oh, no need to be so formal, Lieutenant. But, yes, there are many who speak highly of you. So I am glad to finally make your acquaintance. And, of course, the best till last. Stay, Kano. It is good to finally see you again.
Yes, it's been a long time, Horatio. We need to have a catch-up and reminisce when we have time.
Yes, indeed. I am very sorry that I wasn't there when you actually did call. That would have been a bit of an occasion to celebrate, having you find time to come over and visit at last. But unfortunately, I'm afraid that your captain and I were somewhat busy with other things. And he does kind of half glance over towards Captain du Casse at this. However, niceties aside, it would be great if you could at some point visit when you have the chance. As you say, reminiscing, always nice. Especially from your unique perspective.
Mr. Makobo does a really nice Ractigino, and also some really good ales of certain varieties.
I'm sure. I may have to sample some. Well, of course, my visit here is not simply to make for pleasantries. I have been given an assignment for you to undertake. So, I'm afraid the pleasantries will have to wait for a little bit longer. So, Captain, I would like a second. Let me just, under breath. No greeting for the transport chief, of course. Revenge will be mine. We'll get to that.
Someone's got a trip planned to the buffering.
I could just imagine Andrews doing that out of the side of her mouth with her teeth clenched. Not now, let's shoot. Just remember, I joined in line when. When did you do? Okay. Well, somebody, Chief Vibos, owes me a tour of the ship. Captain, I would like the senior staff to assemble in your conference room in about 15 minutes. Oh, and bring along your ensign, the one who who was formerly a civilian. I would like his input on something. Captain du Casse kind of looks puzzled at this. His specialty is mostly xenoarchaeology, Admiral. I'm a bit confused as to why you would want him unless you're sending us back into the Expanse? Oh, dear goodness, no. No. More along the lines of those out-of-the-box thinkers that you like to have on your crew. So, if you could make sure everybody's assembled and ready in the conference room for 15 minutes' time, that would be agreeable, Captain. Yano, if you would accompany me.
Of course, I've got a few warp cores to show you.
I imagine so. Well, if you will.
Okay.
So, as those guys dip out, I am going to hurriedly just check the conference room to see that it's set up as I wanted it to be. Nope. Let's just quickly amend that. Pop. Right, who have we got? So Claude as tactical officer, I suppose, should be here on this. Who have I not got? There's Andrews, so that means that maybe we'll put Andrews by there.
I think we need Ensign Jenny Eric on this as well. We need a generic ensign in the background pressing buttons on the display screen.
No, she's door guard.
You wouldn't put a science officer on the door guard.
And of course,
Actually.
the cursed ensign cursed.
Let me grab the captain. Where will the captain go? As far away from the admiral as she can get. So.
I'll pay for you.
Whilst still being visible.
Just
How
flying
annoying.
alongside the
It's
window.
outside.
In an EV suit outside. No, before that happens, yeah. So, Vibers and the Admiral disappear off down into the various hallways. Latude, of course, pipes up and goes, "Oh, nice that the Admiral notices the little people." But yes, the captain, as soon as the doors close, and she's given a couple of seconds after the Admiral leaves, she kind of makes this long exhale. Well, I can't say I'm surprised. I'm just rather alarmed that he's decided to cash in his favor this quickly.
No.
Just think, Captain, the sooner that it's over and done with, the less you have to worry about it.
Indeed. The fact that he's gone and pulled us off of open combat rotation for whatever this is, and he's already making with the niceties. I don't like this. He's trying to butter as many of you up as he possibly can to get you on his side, which means he wants something.
not the first admiral that's wanted something from us, Captain.
No,
And the
indeed.
specific mention of Mr. Edwards, I think he might just be trying to get under your skin in particular. I think that comment on your collection of out-of-the-box thinkers might be a little on the nose. I think it's about preventing you from having any ace in the hole. I mean, nothing you can keep back from him.
Maybe. That's a good thought, Nova.
Nova, what did you get as an impression from the Admiral?
He's a changeling.
Mr. Latude, stop influencing Nova. We didn't actually do the blood test check, so he could well be a changeling.
We've just let it straight through. He switched up to all of you and got away with it.
As normal commander, as the XO, you're the one who controls the rotation and sending the newcomers to sickbay for the test.
I will send a message to Vibers to say that he must undergo it as part of the request is that before the meeting he must attend medical.
Yep. Okay.
So
Should I attend sickbay now so that I'm there to do the test when he gets there?
Might be worthwhile not to.
Okay.
Tour of the ship's
Captain,
gonna
by your
end
leave.
at sickbay.
Well relieved, Doctor.
Fair enough. Doctor will start heading to sickbay.
Warming
Nova.
up the anti-changeling serum.
Excuse me, I am clearing my throat an awful lot tonight. Nova. Nova's impression of the Admiral. Supremely confident. I won't say guarded, but he's obviously very practiced at not letting his true intentions out.
Very self-assured then.
So, as far as Commander Vibers is concerned, his affection for Vibers is genuine. It's like his emotional aura really did light up when he saw Vibers. So there's obvious history there. I mean, I don't know if Vibers would have made it known that Admiral du Casse had a hand in mentoring him through Starfleet Academy, and therefore Vibers has had a friend in the Admiralty for a good deal of time. But certainly Andrews would have known about it, as would the captain, because you've got access to everybody's personnel records. So,
Andrews also knows because when the captain was missing, I briefed her before calling up the Admiral.
Yeah. So Admiral Horatio du Casse and Kano Vibers already have history. So that explains the affectionate feelings for Vibers.
Does he like Vibers more than he likes du Casse?
When the Admiral originally arrived on the transporter pad, there was a note of hope when he saw the captain, but the moment she addressed him as just Admiral in that rather clipped fashion, his mood went down, like he was not exactly what you would call crushed, almost crestfallen, disappointed. So there is still definitely some affection for his own niece there, but what was coming off of the captain in waves was distrust and more than a little annoyance. So the captain wasn't able to disguise those emotions coming off of her in very loud waves.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of emotional impression that you got off of everybody. I hope that's clear.
I'd relay that previous statement. He's a changeling. Captain doesn't trust him.
Well, make of that what you will. So, okay. So unless there's anything else anybody wants to mention or talk about while you're all assembled here, aside from the doc who's gone off to sickbay to administer the test.
Test of Doom.
Anything else you guys want to address, or would you want to get started on assembling in the conference room? Okay, I will assume that is the conference room. So, yep, Vibers, you give the Admiral a quick tour of the place. You don't have long, it's a big ship, and you've only got like 15 minutes to get from where you end to the conference room. So you have to kind of, in your head, plot a route that at least gives the Admiral the view of the places you know he wants to see, like the bridge, engineering, the shuttle bay, you know, the massive shuttle
Since
bay.
we've got a brand new fighter fitted, just arrived.
Yeah, exactly. So show off the Samson.
On top of that, we have to visit sick bay before going to the conference room.
Yeah, so you've got a fairly quick show off of the key
Does
places.
he want to? So while going round and showing him
bring
the
you
bits and
back.
pieces, I'm trying to drag out anything I can from him. So get him to talk about anything that's gone on recently, or see if I can get any more information out of him.
Okay. Just having an idle chat with him. Should I make this a test? Yeah, a bit short on momentum. Maybe I'll make this a test. Let's use...
Okay.
Let's use insight, since you're using your relationship with him. Let's use insight and command to see if you can tease any information out of him. I'm going to make this difficulty 2, because he's quite... Even with Vibers, he's being a little guarded.
Okay, cool. Should I blow a determination on this?
Entirely your prerogative.
Depends how determined.
No, because this is a nice, calm conversation with friends.
One success. Okay. Okay, so you kind of Vibers tries to maneuver the conversation to broach the subject of why he's here, but it being Vibers, it's a bit more of a blunt statement than, because Vibers is pretty much used to saying things as he imagines they are. So it's like, so why exactly are you here, Horatio? And the most the Admiral does is he smiles and then kind of taps his nose knowingly. It's a surprise, Kano. You'll have to find out when everybody else does. I will say
Never
this.
did like surprises.
I will say this, though. One of my passion projects. Now, this doesn't exactly narrow things down.
But we don't have
for
any
Vibers.
Orions on board.
Oh, shots fired at the Admiral.
So, yeah, as I just intimated, one of his passion projects. This doesn't exactly narrow things down much. In all the time that Vibers has known Admiral du Casse, Admiral du Casse has always had a fascination for for not exactly secret projects, but for those kind of daring projects that seem to get lost or just seem to fade away. He seems to delight in dredging up history, almost. So his passion projects over the years have been many and varied, but usually something historical. To what end, you've never quite managed to tease that out of him, but there we are. So, Okay, we've got a gif of is it Tilly? I forget the character's name from Lower Decks. Tendi. I knew it would begin with a T. Thank you. Anyway, let's move to the conference room. So, a little time later, and tests have been done, so it's confirmed that Admiral Horatio du Casse does appear indeed to not be a changeling.
They're getting better. Must try harder.
So, eventually, you are all assembled, and of course, Ensign Edwards is given the nod that the Admiral wants him to join in, so... Claude, being tactical officer, is also brought in because Admiral du Casse also wants him on the know. But Captain du Casse also wanted Claude in as well because, you know, where she's concerned, if the Admiral is trying to butter folks up, she wants one of the guys in charge of keeping the ship secure against threats to be in the room. So
he's not one of the guys, he is the guy.
The guy. Well,
hopefully
the XO's also keeping their eye on that kind of situation too.
Nah, Claude's in the room, I don't need to. Claude got this.
Andrews is like, I can just kick back and relax.
Feet up on the table, smoking a cigarette. You got this, Claude.
In fact, the rest of you don't even need to be here for the conference. You can just go. Claude's got this.
Next week on Star Trek Claude.
The Gorn hegemony is finally brought to heel.
It just give you a 5-minute loop of Claude punching things done for the whole time.
No, he sneezed and the Gorn hegemony fell over. Next Tuesday, Claude has a cold. The Borg are in retreat.
No. Claude tried to assimilate him and he assimilates them. Everyone becomes Claude.
We are Claude.
And it all goes from
The
there.
Federation Starfleet administration has the worst letter they've ever received. This is Claude. We need paid. This is Claude.
Claude wants payment. Like, oh no.
Claude wants wages. Oh god, every drone's gonna ask individually.
Well,
Claude, the most electrifying being in Federation history. He is the Rock.
And it also grounds that electricity very well.
Okie dokie. Yes, it becomes painfully obvious that the first and second officers are near to the Admiral, and yet the actual commanding officer is as far away from the Admiral as can possibly be, way at the other end of the table.
It's still within reach of Claude. Everything's within reach of Claude.
If I was any good at animation, I might give little shorts a try, but unfortunately I'm not. So yeah, that'd be fun, but unfortunately I have no talent in that area. So there we go. Little shorts of Claude just punching Gorn, flicking them. Anyway, tangent. Striding into the Q continuum.
Claude's in charge now.
Anyway. Moving swiftly on. Suddenly whispers to Natala, what did we do of this? So... just before the Admiral is about to start, the captain kind of interjects. So, would you like to tell us, Admiral, why you've pulled us out of active combat rotation where we can do the most good? I'm so glad you asked that, Captain. As some of you who know me are aware, I have an interest in history. I also have a revulsion for the concept of secrets. The Federation should represent freedom on so many fronts. Freedom of expression, but also its citizenry shouldn't have secrets kept from them. Now, I am aware, being an admiral, there are certain secrets that for security purposes probably should stay secret from the average civilian. But it is not something I enjoy doing. However, situations like I've currently developed, especially what with the threat of the Dominion and now the active conflicts against the Klingons, it is time, I thought, to start looking to the past for inspiration on how to proceed into the future, to try and resolve some of these conflicts as swiftly and as bloodlessly as possible. To that end, as I was making my way through various history books, notices, and data, I came across an old research project that, as it happens, was undertaken at the very start of the first Federation Klingon War. The creation of the... Let's see if I can remember what the acronym stands for. I do not. Oh, blimey, I had this already in my head. Give me a second while I try and remember the techie speak for it. The Displacement-Activated Spore Hub Drive. Now, whether or not any of your characters actually know anything about this is probably doubtful.
It was heavily classified, so
yes. So this is a big, what? Kind of thing. But more than a few of you are aware of the series this comes from. Not all of you are fans, I know. Some of you outright...
So,
some of you outright refuse to acknowledge it, so that's fine.
Andrew's just going to be our new Bertram. Got it.
You wanted a low blow, and that was it.
Oh, Jesus!
And that's our first franchise reference of the night.
I was just about to.
It wasn't.
I thought the wrestling reference was.
It wasn't a cross franchise, but it was a cross series.
Oh, sorry. Are we saying that series is actually Star Trek?
All right. I'll take that point. That was very clever. Further shots fired there. That was a fusillade that went off there. Wow.
Well, just see, Bertram has started to pay attention the moment he heard the word spore.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh no!
No. You created him.
Oh, Bertram's going to become Stamets.
The Spore Hub Drive, as it was known, was the creation of an organic propulsion system experimented with during the mid-23rd century. It was something that was invented by a pair of scientists who were then co-opted into Starfleet due to the unfortunate beginning of the Klingon-Federation War that occurred around about their time. Only one of the two ships outfitted with this spore drive was successful. The spore drive itself operated using mycelium spores harvested from a certain type of mushroom, as far as I was made aware. Prototaxites stellavitorii, a unique type of fungal life form that apparently existed in multiple subspace domains, and as such had a unique root system that spread across all of these subspace layers, including our own. Using sophisticated quantum theory, The ship that the Spore Hub Drive was mounted within, the Discovery, was able to transmit itself into the network of root systems, the mycelia that these fungi laid throughout the structure of these various subspace domains. And the Discovery and its sister ship, albeit to a limited capacity, were able to navigate the root system, the mycelial network as they called it, in order to move from one point in space to another in almost the blink of an eye.
Admiral, forgive the interjection, but this sounds exceptionally unplausible. Even with our current warp technology, instantaneous travel is theoretical at best.
Indeed. And yet... Carry on, Commander. You have thoughts.
It's more along the lines of this level of technology could never have been suppressed. I find it unlikely this is a case.
Well...
Commander, it wouldn't be the first time things have been suppressed.
And outside of whether things are possible, when it comes to quantum, there are potentially an incredibly diverse space of, I don't know whether you would call them places or not, but certainly things that would exist in the same way as you might think of a place being. Different states of it, whether things become observable or not.
I know where you're coming from, Natalia. I have a brief understanding of sort of like the potential for alternate realm theory, because we have had incursions from what's effectively known as the Terran Empire. So I'm not fully against that. But instantaneous travel to being suppressed to such an extent, it hurts.
Well, I
that
think
it was suppressed, if that's the case.
Yes, it would seem more like it would be. I could see us opening a space to a, as you say, realm of from which you could then return from that place into our material existence. The difficulty I would see would be that it would be virtually impossible to determine where you would come out. The navigation would be horrendous.
Indeed. This apparently, according to the records that I have unearthed, and he draws out a datapad, redacted for the most part. But your concern earlier, Commander, it helps when you have a high level of security clearance. Like I've said before, it helps to know people in high places. Well, this was, as you have mentioned, Commander Natala, certainly a difficulty that the ships who tested this prototype drive encountered. In the end, however, it seems they solved their little problem by utilizing a rather unique form of navigation. Now, all of the notes on how the Spore Hub Drive was brought into being, I have managed to unearth on this datapad. Now, this datapad is heavily encrypted with my own DNA sequence as the means to unlock it. I am aware that Kano here has been instrumental in creating a very unique anti-shapeshifter security protocol for securing your own ship against intrusion. Very impressive,
Yes,
Kano.
that's exactly what it's for, Admiral.
It was too much.
So I would recommend, if you are concerned at all for making sure that the security of these plans remains tight, as soon as I hand over this datapad with all the relevant material that I was able to discover and decode. If you wish to, and I really hope that you do, I wish to study the possibility of creating a Spore Hub Drive for the Navis. Something that I am rather keen that you do look into. Then I would recommend that you encode it in the manner that you have yourselves become very familiar with, using your own self-created security method. It should ensure that only yourselves have access to this data. At which point...
Again,
sorry. Yeah, go on.
Wouldn't this design be more beneficial on a science vessel initially for testing?
Well, if we had the time, probably. But in case you hadn't noticed, Commander, we are somewhat in a bit of a situation with both the Klingons and the threat of the Dominion.
I completely agree, Admiral, but at the same time, the Navis is still one of the most, if not the most powerful vessel at the Federation's disposal.
True.
If we were to have an altercation whilst testing this drive, potentially we've lost one of the most powerful warships in the fleet.
You sell yourselves too short. The Navis itself was a prototype for the longest time, one which you helped get out of the prototype stage by your vast efforts. In fact, this entire crew was put together quite ably, and he kind of indicates Captain du Casse at this point, but she looks entirely nonplussed with the fact that attention is, even a compliment is being directed in at her. You yourselves are purported to be out-of-the-box thinkers, used to operating on prototype materials. In fact, I do believe that there are still prototypes being utilized on this ship as I speak. It's not exactly something that you're unfamiliar with, hence my confidence that this is one of the better places to start such a project. While true, the strength of the Navis's combat capabilities do make it a valuable asset, it's not as if we don't have others. One of the first Sovereign-class ships is already starting to come off the production line and will be in active service very, very soon. So, the Navis may not be the most powerful ship that Starfleet has at its disposal for much longer. In any case, this is a statement of my confidence in all of you to accomplish this task. At which point, Captain du Casse kind of speaks up from the other end of the room. But this is still an order, yes? This is still us being given our orders as to what we're going to be doing. Correct, Admiral? Nova, from where you're sitting at the other end of the table, there is a huge flash of annoyance from the Admiral at this. Yes, Captain. This is me handing you your orders. I was rather hoping you'd be a little more enthusiastic for the opportunity to create a propulsion system that could see a ship like the Navis able to travel almost instantaneously to where it is needed.
Permission to speak freely, Admiral.
Of course, Commander.
The last Admiral that ordered us to undertake missions on their behalf nearly caused the destruction of this ship and the loss of all crew. Similarly, the USS Pegasus was an experimental ship, and I know that that's recently been declassified of what happened there, and that was under the orders of a captain using it who then became an admiral. I am having reservations and support the captain on this decision, sir. I don't like the Navis being used for an experiment when we would be best suited on frontline duty. However, if it is an order, I will follow the captain's lead.
Well, to say that I am disappointed in the attitude would be something of an understatement. I had hoped at least that Kano's confidence in my capabilities would have perhaps made its way to the rest of you, but it's understandable. You don't know me. This is, for most of you, the first time you've ever come into contact with me, and, of course, by taking full responsibility for this, I acknowledge that I failed to recall that you had, of course, been mistreated by an admiral using you under false pretenses. But I can assure you, as Kano and hopefully my own niece can attest. Awkward pause. Yes, as they could possibly attest, I am not Admiral Stoker. I am not operating.
No way.
I am here because I want to see the Federation given an advantage that can help us secure a more swift path to peace. Just imagine it. Being able to instantaneously travel from the Alpha Quadrant to the Gamma Quadrant, to park ourselves right outside the Founder's home world, at which point we can dictate the terms of a peaceful negotiation of terms. Imagine it. But you do bring up a good point. This is, at this point in time, just an hypothesis. Well, it's a theory that has apparently been tested and been proven to be possible, we think. The end result has been so thoroughly blacked out that we don't know the full and final outcome. But we have got 100 years of technological progress between us and them. Hence my confidence in the matter. Now, this does bring us on to the subject of your next mission, because there is a point, a very important point in this whole endeavor that hang on a second, I just suffered a momentary blackout. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, you're still there.
There still.
I'm still transmitting. Okay, cool. Sorry, my screen just momentarily shut off and my camera blinked. Everything's come back. Okay, cool. Yes, there was one very key component to this entire endeavor that did apparently stymie the original Spore Hub Drive team, and that was, as Commander Natala has already mentioned, the problems with navigation. The way that apparently the Discovery crew managed to overcome this very difficult prospect of navigating such an immensely large network was solved by the discovery of a very specific life form, and now I've gone and forgotten the name of the life form.
Tardigrade.
Thank you. Jeez, things are just falling out of my head tonight. Like character names, for instance. As the two Lost Throttle attest. Macro tardigrades were discovered that have a connection to the mycelial network, and they themselves were able to interact with the mycelial network and apparently transport themselves through the network to wherever they wanted to go. And as such were a prime prospect as a living navigation system. So, one of our first hurdles in creating this project will be to actually find a living macro tardigrade. And that will be your first mission. Now, obviously, there are considerations here. The Tardigrades are a life form and therefore must be respected in all fronts. So, rather than have you snatch up one of these creatures and start analyzing it, we've determined that it would be a lot more humane if we were to simply observe these creatures in their own habitat. As such, this will be your mission. We have scoured the galaxy, or the known galaxy at the very least, for likely places where these tardigrades might be found. The most likely places, of course, would be where mycelia of the words. What's what I'm trying to say here? Where this specific type of mycelia have erupted through into our subspace plane. The most likely location for such... Testing. Am I still coming through? Yep. Okay, cool. One of the most likely locations for such would be in places with a great amount of subspace distortion, which would suggest the meeting point of different subspace domains. One of the most likely locations would be in a dark matter nebula. And we believe we have found a likely candidate. Therefore...
Do these records that you have contain any mention of the biosignature of these macro-tardigrades that we could scan for?
The notes I will hand over should, I hope. There are plenty of mentions of the tardigrades. If there is indeed any biological data that you can extrapolate from it, that would help in scanning for such, then I give you full leave to do so, Commander. So, you will be traveling to the galactic southwest. Outside the Federation space, you'll be proceeding near to the Talon system. There you will rendezvous with Starbase 47, which is just outside of Titan's Rift. Starbase 47 being one of our more remote outposts, but near the Rift and other such stellar phenomena that is found in that reach, may very well have the location, the current location, of a very specific dark matter nebula. People have taken to calling it the Midnight Cloud. But Starfleet science believes this could be the most viable location to search for tardigrades. So, that is where you will be going. Your orders are to proceed to the Midnight Cloud and enter into it in order to see if you can locate any tardigrades within it, and if you can, to analyze them, to scan them, to prize out any secrets that you can for how they might interact with the mycelial network. Any questions? No. Very good then. So, you have your orders, and he now puts the datapad down and whisks it over to Vibers. Decode it using... I have now decoded it. It is now yours to use in the manner that you deem most appropriate. Commander Natala, your knowledge, extensive knowledge of sensor operations and quantum mechanics will prove most useful to this project, I am sure. Commander Vibers, your ability to keep things running even in adverse circumstances are, of course, much appreciated here. Ensign Edwards is outside of the box thinking and also dealing with phenomena outside of regulation and Federation space will come in most handy. Dr. Bertram, with the mycelial network being a mushroom-based life form, even though your specialty is botany, not mycology, the two are at least related enough that you might find the leap not such a large one. And of course, Commander Thazanan, your expert level of piloting skills will be necessary to safely guide the Navis through whatever phenomena you may encounter in the Dark Matter Nebula. Lieutenant Nova, well, your ability to keep this ship running also will be of paramount importance, but your ability to read the emotions of others may actually help determine if there is a safer way of making contact, perhaps with the Tardigrades, if not gaining an inkling as to their connection to the network. So, could you authorize access to bridge crew DNA profiles, please?
Bertram?
So, if there are no further points to be raised, then I wish you the best of luck. This crew has been engaged in constant combat operations. It's time that we gave you something that spoke to your spirit as explorers and scientists. And I believe this could be just the refreshing change you need from constant peril in combat. Captain, with your leave, I will depart the ship. Commander Vibers, if you would escort me to the transporter room.
Of course. Captain? Commander?
Commander, says the captain, giving you leave to go. At which point, Commander Vibers and Admiral du Casse proceed out the room towards transporter room 1. Now, before I get to Vibers, Captain du Casse, nice to know our skills are going to be beneficial, Captain. Obviously, the Admiral hasn't read Lord's Record. Yeah, so Captain du Casse, as soon as the Admiral and your chief engineer leave, she just pinches the bridge of her nose and just thoughts. You lied about me maintaining the ship, I wonder. He was trying to stay on your good side, Nova, in case you hadn't noticed. That seems to be his modus operandi.
I'm a bit more concerned about what he hasn't told us. He said this is outside Federation space. Whose space is it?
Well,
Which
maybe
way did you say
Thazanan
that?
can give us a nod on that. Can I get a
Astronav.
astronavigation check? So let's see. This is going to be you remembering stuff, but you can just as easily type up a note to have a brief look-see on records. So if I can get a... Do you want to use reason or do you want to use control? You've got more in
always beats
control.
reason.
Nah, do it as daring and just be like, just like close your eyes.
Eeny,
and
meeny,
point.
miny, there. No, control
Oh, that's
and
very
con with a focus in astronavigation will pull up the records. 2 successes, I'll give you 1 momentum for that.
17 in your flip, and still success.
That was on the edge. That was exactly
It
what
was
I mean.
right on the bean.
17 though, that's insane.
When I was 17.
I think the only people who can manage a 17 are on anything are Thazanan and Bertram.
So I am going
Specialised.
to... I'm going to
Yeah,
put in Discord a link to the map of the galaxy, and it's down in the southwestern corner. There's a big red blob outside of the blue blob that is Federation space that says Titan's Rift. On the eastern edge of the Titan's Rift, there's a little dot that says Talon. That's the Talon system, and next to that is Starbase 47 Vanguard. That's where you'll be going. Everybody got that?
Yep.
I see a red blob, but I can't see who
It's
owns
Titan.
it.
Titan's
You
Rift
can
is
zoom
a
in.
Navigational hazard.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay.
navigational hazard.
I was looking at the key. Okay.
Yes, I do.
So it's
recommend
just
you.
open space then. So no one actually.
You don't appear to be going
if
through
anyone,
anybody's sovereign
yeah.
space. Sorry, John, I talked over you.
It's sort of almost Federation space. We've got bases there. Nobody else has got anything near it, but it's not claimed.
So, thoughts? Says Captain du Casse. No thoughts.
I think this is a larger project than we're going to have time to handle, but there's no harm in at least getting the tardigrade for whoever ends up taking over.
I concur. I still have strong objections with it being the Navis if it becomes a guinea pig ship.
One thought does spring to mind as pleasant the possibility of interdimensional mushroom networks is to some of my sort of as much as it would probably enhance the interest in the Moss lectures. The Admiral did mention everything he found on the Spore Drive was heavily redacted, but didn't give any indication why.
He also did say that there were 2 ships, but one was destroyed.
Yeah.
Similarly, what happened to the first to the first ship.
I don't particularly like 50-50 odds of being destroyed.
In fact, what happened to both ships? Because
I've never heard of this one either.
Oh,
no,
I can think of 2 likely reasons why apparently potentially sort of like galaxy changing technology like this might be heavily redacted. One is that somebody took it, somebody basically had a vested interest in it and took it for, hid it for their own personal reasons, whether or not those reasons came to anything or not. The second is that it led to some sort of disaster so great that all information was redacted because it was deemed too dangerous for anyone to even know about it.
yes, I agree. This level of technology was either too dangerous or too powerful.
Which explains the Admiral's interest in it.
Historically speaking, too powerful isn't enough. It needs to be too dangerous.
Yes.
Commander?
If you could transport to anywhere in space instantaneously, this could end the war. It could end the conflict with the Klingons and the conflict with the Dominion, because the Federation could just launch a strike team at. Oh God, I forgot the actual Klingon homeworld. Kronos.
It would change the nature of warfare. It would change the nature of travel, it would change the nature of our entire civilization. We would be.
It would also put the entire galaxy at alert. Relations would be catastrophically changed because the threat of a potential sneak attack on any home world system at a moment's notice without any pre-warning.
It's not to mention if it got stolen and the technology got out to whatever else.
Yeah, anyone who has this, who is the only person with this on a warship, is effectively in not too short order the ruler of the galaxy. So that's kind of even that would not be sufficient to uninvent something.
It's also a possibility with these. While these possibilities are very serious things that need to be considered, there's the possibility that maybe some sort of useful mushroom wasn't the only thing found in this other layer of subspace or spore space or whatever it is. There's always a possibility that either the environment or something in the environment they discovered there was so potentially catastrophic if it actually leaked into our space that they shut the whole thing down to stop that from ever happening.
It seems more likely this is a lethal substance, and that even if it is capable of the kind of technical advantages, probably, one ship gets killed instantly, the other one gets killed within a year or two.
Yeah.
That's what makes sense to me.
Or if it comes from another layer of reality, not just a lethal substance, a lethal sentient substance. Imagine that. Obviously, I'm throwing out stuff with no proof,
indeed.
but
I mean, translation has come a long way in the last couple 100 years. It's entirely possible that everything involved in this, from the tardigrades down, are sentient life forms that have their own goals, and that they simply didn't have the technology to communicate with them at the time.
And it wouldn't be the first time that a fundamentally alien intelligence was accidentally found and contacted, not even with realization, that almost caused catastrophe. I believe the Enterprise was experimented with some sort of propulsion only a few years ago, and almost actually came under the influence of some extra-dimensional alien intelligence.
Sorry, you first, Mr. Edwards.
Sorry, it's just one thing that's concerning me is the long time ethical use or an exploitation of the animal in question. Because it never starts at this one thing. It'll be requested to be mass produced, and that would be effectively enslavement, manipulation, and effectively battery farming these creatures just to shove them into starships. So you can't humanely train and use these creatures on such a scale.
On the assumption that they are creatures and not sentient beings.
Well, either way,
yes,
it's that splitting hairs that still end on the same side of this is unethical.
Quite.
Well, humans did use horses for a very long time.
Perhaps if we make that one of our main focuses for now, then, of trying to determine methods of communication and/or how do we gather as much data as possible humanely.
At the end of the day, we have a direct order to follow.
We are fortunate in that we have both blip paths and empaths on the Navis, so that I think will assist greatly.
Good point.
Wait a minute. Alex is forgetting his terminology.
That's fine.
Oh, what is it? Not protocol. The thing was don't mess with burgeoning civilizations, or
The
basically
Prime
directive. Thank you. Ultimately, if it does seem to these things being sentient, this would be surely a breach of the Prime Directive. Using them in such a way.
Well, if that's the case, we've already done it once.
And they would be spacefaring, or wouldn't they be considered spacefaring?
Not necessarily.
If they are sentiently traveling through their this system, this network, to determine where they want to go, then presumably, if they're doing so with sentience, they would be considered a spacefaring civilization in their own way. I think that is within the realm of splitting hairs just enough that certainly if they are sentient, and this is at this point not splitting hairs, we would then be able to say that we were fulfilling the orders to our best of our ability without breaking the Prime Directive, if we determined their sentience and then were unable to bring one back.
Now, I'm going to put a pause. Hold on to any points you might have been just about to make. I'm just going to quickly dive over to, because it occurs to me that Navis has been very quiet this entire time.
Oh no, being outside of this one's been quite nice, because you've not put me in the this is an admiral, I can't trust an admiral. I've managed to put myself in this is my friend. He can't be responsible for horrible, nasty things. He's the one
So-
who taught me how to recognize horrible, nasty things.
So, yeah, hold on to those points, because in the time that you have been talking about this, Vibers could have gone and come back. So I do want Vibers to have a say in what's being discussed, so that, Davis does have an opportunity for Vibers to give some input, even if it's at the tail end of the discussion. But just before we get there, so no matter what we're going to deal with in this quick little scene break, hold on to anything that you might have said. Write it down if you have to hold on to the points you were about to make. Just as we quickly switch scenes to what happened as Vibers and the Admiral exited the conference room and started heading down the corridors towards the transporter room. The Admiral just shakes his head and sighs loudly. I had really hoped that after everything we'd been through together, with that whole business with discovering what was really going on with Admiral Stoker and the Starfleet intelligence doing their own Black Ops site and all of that, I'd thought that we'd finally created a bridge between us. But she's still so
Families.
damn stubborn and intransigent.
In her mind, apart from the time she's been helping you get rid of Stoker, she's only just been back in control of this ship. It's only just got back to normal, and everything's just gone to hell. I think only half of it's you, and the rest is situation. It's
Yes.
a shame when it's families involved, isn't it?
Yes, of course. You're right. At least, I hope that's the case, because anything else is just... Well, it was good to finally work together. And we worked so well together. I finally thought our past was behind us, but... Well, it still seems that she's got some things she's not prepared to let go of yet, so... Anyways.
So-
Sorry to trouble you with this kind of thing,
In the middle of a war zone. In the middle of a war, things are kicking off everywhere. And you're digging up myths and legends from the Spock and Kirk days about mushroom spaceships. I would not have called that one.
When you phrase it like that, it makes me sound like a kook.
Hey, still gonna be fun to find out. Just, we don't want to become another Iconia.
Well, quite. Sometimes I get caught up in my memories of who you were in your previous incarnation, and who you've become. This sassy, sarcastic... Not to say that it isn't still a pleasure to be around you, Kano. But the fact that I have to call you Kano now... I still can't get over it. Yeah. I'm an old man and stuck in my ways.
Tell me about it.
You say
get
that
used
with
to
the
one
young
set
face.
Of families. That's half the problem. You got the memories of many lifetimes, and there's a reason they tell you not to keep in touch with people, but we all do it.
It's not like I gave you much of an option, really, is it?
Not
Still,
this time, no.
I kept my respectable distance so that people couldn't accuse you of favoritism.
And thank you for not making that obvious in front of the Trail Commission. I could have been in quite deep shit.
You got where you've gotten out of your own efforts, Kano. Don't ever doubt that.
Oh yes. still been nice for the advice from time to time.
It's at this point that the Vibers and the Admiral do reach Transporter Room 1, and Lechude is there. He doesn't straighten to attention, he just kind of eyeballs the Admiral kind of sideways. But the Admiral doesn't seem to notice.
Gregory, if you want to take a break, I'll handle this one.
As you wish, Commander. As he kind of straightens his tunic and looks between Vibers and the Admiral and then just kind of shuffles out.
Oh. Can you hold on to this pad for me? Need you to check it over in a minute.
Oh, me? Right away, sir. I'll, do that, sir. It just kind of hangs around for a couple of awkward seconds and then kind of backs out of the transporter room until the door's shut. With a hiss. Well, I wish you all the best on your endeavors, Kano. This could be the beginning of a very, very fruitful partnership, I hope. Could change the face of the war, if not of Federation civilization.
We'll
Our
see
names
what
will
we
go down in
find
history.
out. Even if it turns out not to be viable, at least we've solved a mystery and it's one less thing hidden from the world.
Well, exactly. Fortune favor the bold.
I'll keep you abreast of anything that's going on with your niece that you need to know about if she's not staying in touch.
I will
There
pick
shouldn't
you
be
up on
much.
that. I can feel like Commander Vibers has just given Lechude the same information that he is right now using in his moustache. Thank you, Webby. Then feel free to energize, Commander.
Energizing?
That works so much more nicely
Good.
now that version 10 of Foundry has made it so that when you toggle visibility of a token, it fades it. So, there we go. So,
now,
yes. So now
catching Lechude on
Lechude,
the way back.
yeah, Lechude is still standing outside of Transporter Room 1 with a very uncertain look on his face, and as soon as Vibers comes out, he's like, seriously, Kay, what am I doing with
Gregory?
this?
Right, okay. Well, you know how we encoded stuff with the DNA protocol, and we sorted a few bits out about encrypting various bits of the ship for the anti-admiral situations.
Yeah?
The admiral wants us to get the data that's encoded on this pad done in a similar manner. I'm gonna get stuck in a bridge officer's briefing for the next God knows how long. I've got the doc to authorize access, but could you throw this data through a decoder and re-encrypt it for each of the bridge officers and send it over? Of course, I'm
Okay.
assuming you'll add a copy to our anti-admiral stash for emergency situations.
Okay. Alright.
So,
Sure this is not going to get me in trouble.
This ain't gonna get you in trouble. They've already asked for the data. It's just I'm not gonna have time to do it. And you're the best data wizard I know on this ship.
Okay.
Hey, I
I'll,
saw some of your code you've done previously, and some of the stuff you did for the for saving the captain from
Yes,
all
yes,
sorts
yes,
of shit from that. Hey, I can't get you a promotion from that. At least that you can do is let me give you something so I can try and get you a commendation. Sheesh.
He seems to visibly gag at the word promotion. Tell me you're joking.
Would you rather I just got you some Romulan ale imported?
That would be much nicer, thanks. In fact, I might do that after I'm done with this.
Sort this out, and I'll see what I can do about the Romulan ale.
Thanks.
Or maybe it was... and the Andorian brandy.
Last time I engaged in a twofer with you, I ended up in waste disposal with no knowledge of how I got there.
That was
I think I'll
Clark's fault.
stick to the one and not mix.
Fair enough. Right, I better get back to this briefing, but if you can send that over as soon as you got it,
Right away, sir.
and then I'll catch you. Catch you at the poker game later.
Oh, you're inviting me to the poker game now? Wow. Okay. Sure. I just need to take a couple of hours to read up on how to play.
We'll sort it out for the next session.
He starts awkwardly nudging towards,
Right,
away. I'll while you yeah.
Yep, go on. I'll
Now,
let you do it.
You've never seen a man try to run by walking
Backwards.
until now. Somehow he manages it. It seems to defy physics.
Hashtag changeling.
Agent Engineer's personal log. I have now found a way to scare Gregory. This is not something that I've managed previously.
What threatening
Usually,
people with promotions?
I've got
Usually he is
Congratulations.
really professional.
It's gonna be interesting for the barman.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Lieutenant Commander Nova.
Vibers to Mr. Makoko. Could you please ensure that there is a bottle? Could you deliver a bottle of my special stash I brought aboard to Mr. Latude, please?
You better do it quickly
I'm
and quietly,
gonna
or I'll promote you.
Okay, hang on a second. Now,
How much of the...
when you say special stash, how special stash are we talking here, Commander? The special stash or the plain old special stash?
The special stash.
Okay,
Or you'll be called. I'll call you Lieutenant.
Not the Kittima year, but the other one. I am talking about the pointy-eared one.
Right. The special. Okay, I got you.
That's the one.
I will do so
Not
forthwith.
not the 2 or 3 bottles of wine I gave you on the side to keep for really special occasions that are over 100 years old. Leave those alone.
So the
Why would you
contraband
think he?
stash.
Just the contraband.
This is secure line, right?
You're
You're not saying this out
It is
loud
now.
in a corridor where anyone can hear.
Why were you thinking he's not a successful smuggler anymore? I can't remember.
Will do.
Mr. Minoko. I feel betrayed by
You guys
Mr.
might start
Minoko.
finding this stuff contraband by like panels or whatnot. Maybe not a torpedo tube.
Oh, yeah, let's just go down to the engineering bay and oh look, everyone's rat arse. I wonder why. Oh, it's because we're storing Romulan ale in the warp core.
I was gonna say that's why he wanted to get the extra warp core. Is hollowed it out and store stuff in it.
What are you on about?
That's why it's the one he'll never ever have ejected.
If I'm storing stuff, you store it where the normal thing's kept. No one ever notices the fact there's 6 bottles when there should be 5. What's that? It's blue. Now go for the green one.
Oh dear me. So,
What's that? That's medical alcohol for the healing kits. What year are we in again, Commander Vipers?
Which one does it say on the
bottle?
bottle?
It's not gonna be that great if you're gonna be current year.
So just take that year and add a couple of zeros. Anyway.
I use it as a painkiller for emergencies. What's the emergency? Tuesday.
So Commander Vibers eventually makes his way back into the conference room.
He stumbles a bit.
I've only been 20 minutes. No, I'm sober.
So we can continue
So
any
Tuesday's
conversation
gonna be-
you might have been bringing on. So yeah.
So yes, ethical dilemmas and whatnot.
Does Vibers actually chuckle at the words ethical dilemmas? Tell me he does.
No, that's just me.
I noticed got Navis laughing so much.
Yeah. I can just imagine that. Vipers
Vipers
walks in.
walks
Right, what have
back.
I missed? Right, we've got ethical dilemmas.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Is that hip
So did I
flask?
miss it? What did I miss?
I think we'd bring you up to speed on the conversation that we've had so far.
Yep,
Yeah.
Well, we
okay,
mainly have
good.
our wild suppositions, and
That's
most of
kind.
our dilemmas come from things that aren't even on the page. So,
Well,
Right,
to be honest,
you
the
should
mistreatment
be-
of animals isn't necessarily off the page. It'd be a very
Well,
real
the thing
thing.
is, we don't actually know, Mr. Edwards, what was involved. So it may be mistreated or it may not be. We don't know.
Right.
We have our orders, and as much as we can disagree on them,
We have to do them.
I have there is personally encrypted versions of the information going to your pads as soon as Mr. Latude's finished the program.
The captain kind of raises an eyebrow, very Vulcan-like at this. Oh, you gave Lieutenant Latude the sensitive security information. I like the trust in your fellow officer.
He's the best data smith on the ship, sir.
I wasn't disputing it, Commander. I, in fact,
And-
feel very safe that Mr. Latude has that information.
it's entirely possible that
Yeah.
because trusting Mr. Latude is noted, Captain.
It's more his
Um,
rampant paranoia, and I know he's probably sweating it right now. The fact that he's been given such an obviously important task.
Yes. He really does not like the idea of promotion.
anyone who could have been given that pad to disseminate the data from it, I believe that Mr. Latude is one of those most likely that what arrives on our pads might be less encrypted and less redacted than it perhaps intended to be.
You never can underestimate Gairi's talents, I have learned, says the captain.
Which is why it seemed appropriate. So yes, that should be arriving with you shortly.
Very well.
From a brief glance at this, it's weird that we're searching for Kirk and Spock era ships.
Let's say it's not so much the fact that this data was gathered in that era means that our methodology has changed a lot since then. Our treatment of these, if this had never been done before, if this
The
was
Federation, the Prime Directive holds more weight now than it did 100 years ago.
exactly so, and also our methods of gathering data are different. Our scanning technology has changed incredibly. We might have, and it might also be that we have a better chance of not requiring this organic method of navigation at this point. We might be better capable of navigating this problem. It's just I don't see how, because without having seen this particular quantum state, I can't picture how the navigation would work or what the challenges would be specifically. But it's entirely possible that this is something that we will discover shouldn't be done or couldn't be done under our current directives. But as you say, we don't have that information. We certainly can go and find out.
Very good. Anyone else with points they want to bring up?
If we do end up getting this working and fitted to the ship, I would like to disconnect from the main systems and shut it down.
Noted.
This gives us a cold backup for if we're stuck in the middle of nowhere. we already know how to bootstrap it.
Very good. I like the idea. But, as you've noted, we have to get past the preliminary if it's even viable stage, and it seems this entire project seems to hinge on whether or not we can find these Tardigrades. Anything else? Okay then. Commander Thazanan, well, you're going to have to plot the course to get us to Starbase 47 before we get the coordinates of where we're going to find this midnight cloud. Natala, have a look into what we can expect with a dark matter nebula. There's a reason that Starfleet tends to avoid them at all possible costs. We need to see if anyone else has ever encountered a dark matter nebula and what to expect if and when we get there.
Yes, sir.
Ensign Edwards, you're currently on tactical duties, but I would like you to communicate ahead to Starbase 47 to see if we can get a leg up on where we can expect this nebula to be, if it's there at all. Dr. Bertram, see if you can, with Natala's assistance, comb through the records we've just been given to see what we can ascertain about these tardigrades and whether or not we are going to be likely to find any trace of them, and if we can try and distinguish them from any other readings we might get when we finally do discover them. Commander Vibers, we're obviously not going to know what it is we're going to find in a dark matter nebula because they're so few and far between, so we're going to need engines and maintenance systems to be on full ready alert and up to standard when we do get there. Commander...
So what I can do, Captain?
Commander, well, you already brought up all the needed, necessary points, so we're just going to have to play it by ear, I'm afraid. Lieutenant Nova, I want you to have a word with Hello. See if it has any knowledge or any recommendations whatsoever with being able to navigate our way through a dark matter nebula. I think it's finally time we try utilizing this little partner you've managed to create.
Am I allowed to give it more information regarding those? Because it may not have them.
Information on what astro navigation information we have. We don't want to give it access to the potentially top secret redacted information to do with the Spore Drive project. Just things that are relevant to the safety of this ship in navigating astrological phenomena.
Okay.
This is my uncle cashing in his favor and having us perform one of his harebrained schemes. But, as has already been noted, we have been given an order by a higher-ranking officer, and at the very least this might have some form of benefit. Who knows? But for the time being, this is a scientific mission of discovery of a life form. The rest we can attend to as window dressing for the time being. Questions? All right. Let's get to it. Dismissed.
Captain,
Yes.
can I have a quick word?
Of course.
As everyone else files out.
Okie dokie, so this is just the captain and Vibers. Anyone object to this?
Nope.
Anyone want their own private word with the captain?
I'm good.
Alright. So then, Vibers takes the captain aside.
So, just to be clear, even though I have a past history, my previous host has had a good friendship with your uncle, I'm still loyal to the crew first. I just wanted to make that clear. I don't expect anything wrong, but
Thank you for at
We've
least...
got a bad history with admirals.
Well, quite. Some of us more recently, and some of us more historically than others. But I appreciate what you've said, Commander. It goes a long way to proving why my uncle trusted you and why I've put so much trust in you as well. To your station, Commander.
I don't think he has any ulterior motives on this one, but
Well, I wouldn't discount it. But
okay. Yep.
I
Off to
think
engineering.
what you've said at least bears bearing in mind. This might be the sum totality of his motivation behind it. He just wants to resurrect this project. As you were. And so,
Captain.
the captain goes off. So, is there anything else the crew would like to discuss amongst each other? You've discussed a lot. You seem to have gotten, the basis of your concerns out, so that's fine. I don't think there's anything more you want to talk about in this regard. I seem to be correct. Okay then, so let's dump us back to the bridge.
I suppose I have a question. I mean, it was redacted, but who did the redacting? Was it Starfleet? Was it Starfleet Intelligence?
All that's revealed is that the admirals seem to have the correct security codes needed to unlock a lot of the redaction, such that if given enough focus, attention, and a little bit of time, there's possibly enough data in there for you guys to attempt to recreate the grand experiment that was the Displacement-Activated Spore Hub Drive. There's enough that's still redacted, though, that it's still not clear on why the last remaining ship with the functioning spore drive disappeared. But that doesn't seem to be the Admiral's concern, so he left those bits redacted. The suggestion that there are parts of this that are so redacted that even an Admiral that seems to have as much access as Admiral du Casse seems to keep throwing out that he does is something else to consider. Does that answer your question? All right. What wasn't clear? What do I need to make more clear?
No. I mean, it is clear. It just makes me wonder.
Makes you wonder. Okay,
Yes.
cool. Because if there's any at any point where I do gab on, as you've noticed. So if anything is unclear and I haven't stated the response to a question or a comment clearly enough, then yes, do tell me. If I need to be clearer, I shall be. Okie dokies. So, unless there's anything else that anybody wants to do, you guys make preparations to leave Federation space and get on your journey. So... takes a fair old time to get from where you start out to go right through Federation space and end up near to the Talon system and approach Starbase 47. Now, we're going to gloss over, unless there's anything specific that anybody wants to address at Starbase 47, then I am just going to gloss over what happens when you rendezvous there. You petition them for the most recent astronomical data that you need to try and pinpoint where you are headed next, and the Starbase crew comply. They give you the last observed location of the Midnight Cloud. Yes?
Natala's going to be very focused on the potential hazard to the ship of the nebula.
Right, yes.
Because,
so, as a result, I need to look up dark matter here. So, let's go on.
So, yeah, but essentially, dark matter nebulas are always full of either weird energy or weird energy drains, or both. And so, ships either end up without power or without sensors, or both. Various ships collide with unseen planets, unseen asteroids.
So, for the purposes of... Sorry to interrupt you mid-sentence there, but this sounds like a really good time to bring in a check just to give you some more momentum.
Yeah.
So, let's go with a reason and science check for yourself to represent Natala going about what she was doing to find out all the necessary information.
So she's sort of trying to work out which particles she could scan for the more common threats.
2 successes, good. 1 over and above what you needed, so that does earn you some momentum. Right, so yeah, as you have noted, so I'm just going to read up a little something here, a little sidebar. So yeah, leading astrophysicists theorize that dark matter makes up much of the universe's mass. In practice, however, dark matter is exceedingly difficult to observe and measure. So,
the fact that we can see the nebulas implies that they're made up of dark matter and other stuff.
Yes.
A lot of dark matter nebulas are also referred to as baryonic nebulas, so presumably baryon particles would be something I could scan for more easily than dark matter.
Yes. So, yes, most shipboard sensors can't detect dark matter in its native state, as it were. So as you say, yes, various different types of particles could potentially be measured in order to provide a means of detection. The true secret of dark matter is Claught.
Claught is the dark matter elemental.
Claught is the dark matter. Okay. So yes, dark matter nebulae can conceal hazards that may pose grave threats to passing ships. So yes, for this reason, many locations that are known to have high concentrations of dark matter remain uncharted. So,
technically not in any sector, Gareth.
Okay.
We're outside. We're outside the Accolade and the Bolian sectors.
Cool.
Yes. Yes, sorry I didn't catch that. That was, I was busy reading something else, so thanks for picking up on that. Yes, something that is interesting that you might very well have made note of, and I've forgotten. I'm going to make note of it again anyway. Scientists do theorize, so this is the kind of stuff that Natala finds as she's reading up on the subject, that dark matter can be given off as a byproduct when subspace domains are pierced. So such an occurrence could indicate a rupture between layers in subspace, which can result in a destructive release of energy. So this is probably what the Admiral was talking about, why the Midnight Cloud and other such dark matter nebulae were probably viable locations for searching for the Tardigrades. So, this is the point where you do eventually come out of warp. The relevant system. And yes, looming ahead of the ship. So a bewildering mass of black matter kind of swirls on the view screen, blotting out the stars beyond. Sensors can't penetrate the writhing dark matter of the Midnight Cloud. All the ship's instruments report an expansive stretch of null space, a vast nothingness, big enough to hide untold dangers. So it's no wonder that Starfleet determined years ago that this nebula was too hazardous for crewed vessels to chart. And yet, here you are. So, you're here. What would you like to start with?
Will a probe be pretty much a waste of a probe at this point?
Let's go.
Need
Bridge
a more
conference rather
localized
than
area
general
for that.
ambience.
We got plenty of probes. Just fire them. Pew, 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 pew. Mr. Claude, fire probe. Not the torpedo.
Hang on. Where is it?
That means I get to press a button, right, Commander?
Yes, Mr. Claude. Yes, it
We've
does.
really dropped his intelligence level. The fact is he has to have one button compared to when we first met him.
No, he doesn't have one button. We've confirmed this as part of the actual point spent. Is that no one disagreed with my kind of thing, so he has tactile sense. He's trigger
So
happy.
it's not
But not
intelligence,
trigger happy.
it's just grammar.
I'd like to point out in that statement, Claude didn't address himself in the third person.
No, he didn't. So there we are. All right, I'll lose a thread.
No, it's fine.
Probe is ready, Commander. Make Lord launch the probe.
You may.
So, probe is launched out, and off it goes. So, let's have a sensor scan using the probe. This is going to be a
Tactical.
sorry.
That'd be coming from
Well,
the
tactical fires it, but it's not exactly difficult to point and shoot the thing.
Fair enough.
What you get from it is going to be more of a sensor check using the probe's sensor. As a result, can I have a control plus science task from somebody, probably sensor operated, or tactical, if or both, assisted by the ship's sensors and science. So, who wants to do the active sensor scan, and who wants to do the ship helping out?
Got my sensor scan ready.
Okay, so who would like to be the ship? Anyone not done anything in a while? Sean hasn't spoken up much recently, so how about Sean? You can be the ship.
Okay.
The ship will be rolling 1 dice and its sensors and science. And put whatever you want into it. This is difficulty 0, so whatever you gain from this is a bonus. Okay, so that's Natala, and can we have the ship? 3 in all, so that's a pretty good sensor scan. You censored the heck out of it. Which sounded a lot more interesting in my head than it did when I actually said it, so there we go, never mind. Alright, so as anticipated, the scan can't penetrate the nebula, but it does detect residual mycelial signatures in the surrounding space, which, of course, suggests that those who were tasked with analyzing the data to try and find data that you could use to pinpoint the tardigrades also assisted with being able to pinpoint the specific signatures of the mycelial spores. So it seems there is indeed something that fits the records in the Midnight Cloud.
Alex is also going to show his lack of remembering this time,
That's
so I've
fine.
actually seen that series.
That's
How did the Tardigrades communicate in the end? Was it actually a vocal call, or was it through some other means?
That's interesting. For those who have watched
I
Discovery,
know they do make sounds.
yes,
from
they
what
do, because
the-
they seemed to be more like an animal. So the records that you've got will indicate that the tardigrades exhibited more kind of animalistic behaviors.
It was more the realm itself that seemed to show some kind of intelligence rather than the tardigrades.
So
Just
it's
more, I was thinking to using the scanners to try and find anything that actually sounds, literally like
Ah.
sonar.
Yes, that's an interesting thought.
If
Now,
we
the
had any
records
vocal
you've
recordings.
got. Sorry, John. I
That's what I'm
talked over
hoping.
you
That's what I'm hoping we're having the information in the data pads.
there. So what was it you said, John? I talked over you there. Sorry.
Just that we were hoping, that what Alex was hoping for was a sound recording of a tardigrade.
Right.
Basically.
The only indication that there was any kind of communication made was that there was an observation made by a Discovery crew member that there was some kind of communication going on between the tardigrade and a puff of mycelial spores. How that communication actually was actioned remains unclear. Which is
No, I was thinking
not very
tardigrade.
helpful.
Tardigrade. but-
As such, there's no record of tardigrade on tardigrade communication,
Okay.
unfortunately.
No, they were very rare even within the actual place itself.
Mm.
We didn't tend to see
So
gatherings.
that's the closest that was gotten was tardigrade and spore communication. Doesn't help you much, but gives you something.
So we got residual mycelial.
That seems to indicate that there's something mycelial in the nebula, in the midnight cloud.
I would suggest that we not risk the ship entirely, and that at least the preliminary entry to the nebula should probably be done with a runabout.
Now, if someone sciencey, doesn't matter who, can give me a reason plus science assisted by the ship's computers and science, who else would like a turn?
Well, Bertram, can I go with this one?
My focus is apply.
This is more going to be for stellar stuff, so
Okay.
maybe Thazanan might be a better choice. Simply more stellar phenomena based, but somebody else, Gareth, maybe you could be the
what
computer.
do you think?
Yep.
Well, my science is atrocious.
But this is difficulty 0, so it's not huge. So
Doesn't
might
mean
get
you
there.
can't roll.
And someone can help.
Science harder.
Science
we
more!
Science like you mean it.
Yes, please. And the ship, the computers and science for the ship, reason and science for whoever wants to try the actual check. Thazanan made sense since he can use his astronavigation.
I would just keep on feeding the sensor data to people as they need it.
Yes,
Science.
that's only. Go for Go for it if you want to. If you don't think you're appropriate, then nominate someone else.
Let's do it. Thazanan can do
Okay.
anything.
He can. There we are. So that's 3 successes in total. So yeah, you get 1 over and above, 2 over and above what you need. You get quite a few successes there. That's nice. So, with a bit of reasoning and a bit of sciencing, for lack of a better word, you reckon that because dark matter itself is really hard to measure because it's difficult to actually observe, and most shipboard sensors can't detect dark matter, saturating the dark matter with more measurable substances, such as something like metrion particles, could help for limited intervals. It'd be like sending out a sonar ping, almost.
Or spraying
Yes.
water on a laser.
Yeah.
Or a tracer in the bodies in the body, medical tracer.
So yeah. So building on Natala's observations and science, and using Caval's own knowledge of stellar phenomena in navigating them, it's possible that you could try and rejig one of the ship's emitters to start emitting Metreon particles that you could use then to start charting out potential dark matter hazards. So, you now have a means, potentially, to enter the Midnight Cloud, but of course it doesn't necessarily mean that you will be able to definitely make your way through whatever stellar phenomena exist within this potential rupture between subspace realms. And in that regard, I think that's an appropriate place to stop for tonight. Because you now have a plan of potential action going forwards. So we can potentially close off this session as a bit of a fade out as the crew get to work in modifying something like it's probably going to be the main deflector to emit Metreon particles. So before
particles off the main deflector dish.
Yes, exactly. So before I close this session out completely, were there any other precautions or anything else that folks wanted to get done ready for their entrance into the nebula?
Raise shields.
Well, okay, evidently, obviously, but
I would also recommend that because potentially we're going into an area with high compression factor because of the amount of particles in the areas potentially move crew away from the external areas of the ship in case we observe unusually high levels of hull stress.
that's a good point. Yeah, okay. Taken into consideration.
I think we can maybe think of how we want to configure our modular laboratories to give us bonuses on our science checks.
Yeah?
Yeah, connect them up to astrometrics.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of different. We need some that are going to be ready to contain samples if we can take them of the relevant spores, as well as
Good point.
potentially somewhere to house a tardigrade if there's no other method than capture.
Yeah, that's all. Those are all good points. Anything else?
Make sure hull integrity is as ready as we can. Damage controls teams are on standby.
Yep, which seems to echo Andrew's
Usual
sentiments.
stuff.
Yeah.
Make sure
From
sick bay is
engineering.
ready for both conventional and potentially esoteric injuries, given the rather unpredictable nature of dark matter.
Okay. Yep. Nice. So
First and second shift are both ready for emergencies, while
Okay.
third shift's asleep.
anything else?
We only have one shift. We only have daytime.
Yeah.
Nighttime. Everyone
About
just
that,
sleep.
Commander, there are people who man the ship while you're asleep.
No, there isn't, because I don't sleep. I wait. I just
Anything
wait.
else? Or is that it? Because that seems pretty comprehensive.
I think that's
Yeah.
pretty much it.
Is there anything we can do with the runabouts and the shuttles in case we need to take them outside the ship that might help them?
That's a good point. A bit of coordination between ships and the smaller ships and the Navis, if they need to navigate out of the ship.
I think it's worth fitting a bigger deflector on the runabout. So
So-
effectively, take its torpedo launcher off, because that's a module, and put the one that's a big deflector emitter on instead.
Okay. So
We're putting the big deflector on.
we have various different grades of deflector.
We're gonna to make it bigger. We'll staple the smaller one to the bigger one.
Just double.
So, reason being, it's going to be set up to do the Metreon particle spray in front of the runabout,
I'm
because
picturing like
it's not normally set up to do that.
I'm basically picturing a kit bash of a runabout in a lower berth with like a ball in front of it.
Yeah.
No,
There-
it's pretty much a squirty nozzle put on the top of the ship.
Stop that and start this. Okay, so you've basically got a good set of preparations you want to make to the crew and the ship before it ventures into this place. So we're going to take it as read that all of that preparation happens off camera, and it'll be a scene switch between the end of this session and the start of the next, where those precautions will have been taken into consideration. Some of those precautions might require a role, a task, when we come back, in order to see how well you bolted on a bigger deflector to a runabout. Other than that, the rest of those changes and procedures and protocols all sound pretty darned reasonable and should have no problems implementing them. So, with that in mind, we're going to say good night to the guys watching us on stream, or listening to us on stream. So the guys the crew of the Navis have been given a very interesting mission, and we'll have to see how well they get on with it next week. So if anyone's got any last things to say before we shut off the stream?
Nerd.
Watching.
No? Okay, well in that case,
you
yes.
Don't do it you don't do it like that, Alex. Go
I
on.
know.
In that
Spoil
case,
it.
yep, thanks for watching. For those of you who've been following us on stream, tune in next week to find out how they managed to go through the midnight cloud and what they might find in there.
Previously, and in 2 weeks' time, we have the new adventures of the starship.
Lord.
Yeah. No, because Claught's on board the Navis.
Yeah, of
Claught's
course.
He'll survive.
yeah, he will
Soul
survive, but he's got to have some time to get out of the.
He'll just punch his way out.
Yeah, unless he just punches a tardigrade and then teleports. That's Claught's now new ability.
Punches a tardigrade. Oh dear. We found the one thing that they weren't impervious to. Clawed.
Lord.
Well, anyway, yes, thanks for watching, guys. Those of you who are watching this on YouTube, thanks for tuning in. Make sure to like the video so that we can keep the algorithm running in favour of those of us.
Like and subscribe.
Like, share, and subscribe.
Yeah, like
All the
share.
Borg will get you.
Especially with stuff that's been going on in the role-playing game community recently, having other streams to do with other role-playing games appearing in the various algorithms will help, I hope. And I do live in hope. So, live long and prosper. We'll see you guys hopefully next week. And at this point, hailing frequencies are now closed.